candy in the cellar when it's gone. Drink, drink, the glasses clink, making tinkling music till the dawn is breaking. Clang, clang, who cares a dang? What's the difference?
From Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. An underwater alien base known as Crystal Blue UFO is discovered near Mexico. Stalwart UFO hunter Scott Warning, who previously spotted an erotic sculpture on an asteroid in deep space and found a suspected underground base being built near Area 51, has recently announced yet another apparently extraordinary discovery he made while examining Google Earth. Evidence of an alien base laying beneath the ocean waves off the coast of Mexico, with a crystal blue UFO parked near the premises. Quote, I found this awesome crystal blue UFO at an underwater alien base off the coast of Mexico today. The UFO, according to Google Ruler, is 1.8 miles across in both directions. That's a big alien craft, Warning wrote on his blog, musing that the craft should probably be designated as an unidentified submerged object, or USO, instead. He also took note that the area he believes to be runways, speculating that they are located in an area safe of fish, sharks, whales, so that the USO can travel more safely. This is reported at BendedReality.com. And a Texas woman says she recently witnessed an alligator with what appeared to be some kind of a knife stuck in its head while swimming in a local lake, a situation she says she believes may have been a purposeful act. The gator was reportedly spotted by at least 2 witnesses inside Orchard Lake Estates in Sugar Land, Texas this week. Erin Weaver, the woman who captured the picture of the gator with the protruding knife in its head, told NBC affiliate KPRC that she saw the gator near some rocks early last Thursday during her morning walk. Weaver told multiple outlets that the area's alligators are a regular fixture of her morning walks, but were generally of little concern prior to this incident. Speaking with ABC affiliate KTRK, Weaver said she believes someone did this on purpose. I want to get help for the alligator. I don't want to see an alligator swimming around with a knife in its head, suffering. And a creature with huge teeth reported in Nebraska Park is giving rise to chupacabra rumors. Out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Mark Price of the Charlotte Observer says it was only a month ago that India's army said it found proof of the abominable snowman. So it shouldn't be a complete shock that many on Twitter now claim a chupacabra turned up in Nebraska, of all places. The proof, some insist, is a pair of photos tweeted Friday by Sportsman's Channel, showing half of a furry creature with a vicious-looking set of teeth and canine similarities. Among those retweeting the photos was South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. The tweet asked Twitter users to give their best guess, and that's where the chupacabra came up over and over again. Source, WBTV. And time for an extreme fun fact. The word testify is based on the ancient Roman practice of making a man swear on their testicles when making a statement in court. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
message is being broadcast by the Department of Defense of the Republic. At 2 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, multiple unidentified objects were confirmed to have entered Earth's atmosphere.
Discovery Houston, 20 seconds to LOS T-drift.
Roger, nice to be in orbit. The first message that comes to you is you are a divine being. You matter. You count. You come from the realms of unimaginable power and light, and you will return to those realms.
The vast stretches of the unknown and the unanswered and the unfinished still far outstrip our collective comprehension.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from Forest Tower Studios, all the way from the Deep South. Now, here is your host, Joe Root.
Broadcasting from atop a hill in the mossy creek bottoms of Cane Creek, Arkansas. This is Lighting the Void, and I'm your host, Joe Root. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is Tuesday night, June the 18th, on into the 19th. And tonight we'll be speaking with hypnotist and laughologist Albert Nerenberg. And it's going to be a deep discussion about the workings of the human mind. So that's coming up. And I want to thank Guy McCourt for coming on the program last night. A pretty haunting tale of what was going on with him. If you missed that, you can check out our archives on YouTube and just about every podcast player there is out there. And sometimes it's up for replay on the station, too. So go check that out. This show is also brought to you by GetTheTea.com. My man Ronnie McMullen at GetTheTea.com. Make sure you sign up for the webinar every 2 weeks to win, because he gives away stuff and you're going to win. Also, Ancient Life Oil and PrepareWithTheFringe.com. You can support the show by donating or going to the website or using the Amazon portal or just telling our sponsors, hey, that's it. Just say, hey, man, the Fringe FM sent us. I wanted to address as well as all the weird stuff that's been going on lately. I know it's gotten everybody's attention, and I know everybody's kind of worried about it, as am I. I had an earthquake that happened over here in San Antonio, Texas, which by me it's a little bit too close for comfort, to be honest with you. We don't get earthquakes around here that often, and we're close to this big fault line. It's a New Madrid fault, and I got to tell you, I watched these earthquake maps, and it's getting pretty freaky, and there's a lot of theories going around about sunspots and different things and astrology and you name it. But all I know for a fact is that the earthquake activity and the energy is, whatever you want to call that, is getting pretty wild. And they try to scare me when you pull up this apocryphal, I guess, or the apocalypse, not apocryphal, but the map of the apocalypse, and there's an earthquake that splits Arkansas right in half, and where I live, I'm in the middle of that thing, and that was predicted by all kinds of different people. So I hope that they're wrong about that. I really do. Don't forget, tomorrow night is the debut of Real Talk with J.D. Lewis. You're not going to want to miss that. Right after Suzanne Ross, it's going to be at 7 p.m. Pacific. This is a show that's produced by Clyde Lewis from Ground Zero, as well, out of the KXL studios in Portland. And so you want to really tune in for that. That's going to be, well, you'll see. It's going to be quite different. It's going to be real talk. Yeah. I'll be there, and you can hang out with us in the chat rooms, either one, mainly the Fringe FM chat if you want to go in the chat. But this show's got 2 of them, and there's one over on Spreaker. There's also one at the Fringe FM chat. And, I mean, chat rooms are chat rooms, right? But what I'm trying to do is get people more involved with the Discord chat. The reason why is because it's, way better than social media. We can say whatever we want, do whatever we want. We don't get strikes. We run the room, and you can get there with any phone, app, whatever. And I've got a place where people can write articles. They talk about their dreams, talk about all kinds of weird stuff. And it's up 24/7, as where the Spreaker chat's only up when this show is up. All right, so you've heard me reference the mind and the subconscious mind quite a bit on this program, because I think there's a portal between the physical realm and whatever you want to call this other realm. We don't know what it is, but it controls a lot of things, a huge percentage of our bodies and everything. There's the nocebo effect that happens to us, the placebo effect that happens to us, many things that science and doctors cannot explain. However, when you look at text about the occult and mystery schools, and even some spirit science texts, and the study of symbolism in the subconscious and NLP, you start to realize that there really is some type of power here. And I'm a firm believer that the human has powers that we don't really know about. Now, I'm not talking about like X-Men. That would be cool if it was like X-Men, but just stuff that we don't understand and that we haven't tapped into. And hypnotism is a fascinating thing. It's one of those things where people are hugely skeptic of, but I've also seen it work. And you've heard me reference a book called Journey of Souls, which is what really got me interested in hypnotism. And so tonight we're going to be speaking with Albert Nerenberg about that. And Albert Nerenberg is an acclaimed director, hypnotist, and one of the world's top experts on hypnotism and laughing. And Nerenberg also directed Laughology, which was the first feature documentary about laughter for CTV, and developed his own laughter exercise technique called Laughercize. And he was recently named a laughter ambassador, which is a model that explains hypnosis, according to Albert, by Madan Kataria, a founder of the laughter yoga movement. Now, Nerenberg's TEDx presentation is Hypnosis Fake, is one of the most watched demonstrations of hypnosis to date. And he also directed You Are What You Act, which features a dramatic scene filmed at IdeaCIty in 2017. And the documentary was awarded the jury prize at the 2008 Illuminate Film Festival. Albert, thank you for coming on Lighting the Void. It's a pleasure to have you here, sir.
It's an honor to, it's an honor to be here. I'm really happy about it.
I am fascinated with this subject because I'm still I guess you could say I'm a skeptic of hypnotism in a way, but at the same time, I've read a lot of stuff. I've heard a lot of people talk about it. I've even been to several, comedy clubs where you got those guys that go up there. Obviously, you know what I'm talking about. And
I know what you're talking about.
Certain people just do crazy things that they would never do before. And I'm wondering, when I brought up earlier that there's something about the subconscious that is kind of like a system that's running everything behind the scenes. I think there's something mystical to it, but it could be scientific. What do you think?
I think you're right. I actually think there is something mystical, but maybe it's both can be explained by science, but also there's parts of it that are total mystery. But let me give you a weird example of how I personally of how I got into hypnosis. Sure. I was doing a documentary, a very weird documentary about 9/11. It wasn't just about like 9/11 in New York, but about the fact that a number of people had dreams about 9/11 before it happened. Now, a lot of people might say, I had a weird dream with planes hitting buildings or something like that. That's not that weird. But what happened really is a number of people had very specific dreams, meaning they had dreams where they saw two towers collapsing, or they saw two planes hit separate buildings. And often these were people who visited therapists or psychologists, and psychologists often take notes. So what happened was, before the events of 9/11, several weeks or months before, a number of people reported crazy dreams where they kind of woke up in the middle of the night, which is the sign of a precognitive dream, where you wake up in a sweat or in a state of distress. And I knew someone who had one of these dreams. I was very skeptical. I didn't believe it. But when 9/11 happened, a whole bunch of people came out and said that was just like my dream. So to explain the rest of the story is that I started working on a documentary for television about just the idea that people could have dreamt about 9/11 before it happened. And as part of the film, there was a debate about how people died. And I made the mistake of often watching a lot of the footage late at night, very late at night, often by myself, because I was just trying to get the work done. And what happened was I got traumatized. I think everybody's already traumatized by 9/11, but when I looked at the footage late at night, tired, exhausted, a lot of it sort of went right into my brain. And I noticed I couldn't get some of the images out of my head. And I developed anxiety, insomnia, and I was not in a good way. And I'll just wrap up the story this way, is that just by chance, I saw an ad for somebody saying, do you have obsessive memories that you can't get rid of? Call this number. And it just sort of appeared in front of me, and I just decided I'll try it, and called a guy who was in California. Turns out to be hypnotist. I didn't even really know what hypnotism was at the time. And in half an hour, this problem that I'd had for months, pictures I could not get out of my head, obsessive memories that wouldn't leave me alone, disappeared in half an hour. And after that, I realized I got to learn how to do this. And so that's a pretty weird way to get into hypnosis, because the film itself was weird, that this question of whether you can dream about things before they happen, especially big things. And then that's what actually led me into hypnosis in the first place.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. I think that happens to all of us too. We realize that there's something more to it. Mine was more of a synchronicity type thing, right? Because people started telling me, pay attention to synchronicity, right? So it wasn't like a major event, but it was pay attention to synchronicity, pay attention to symbols and songs and these types of things. And it just kept happening and happening. And then that led me into, things of like the occult, like the tarot and symbolism and geometry. And I started studying things like archetypes and how symbols could speak to us, and how these old occultists in the Renaissance times, we think when they're doing rituals, right? We thought they were sacrificing goats and stuff like that. And some of them did that. But for the most part, and what you call white magic, these guys were just using things that triggered their subconscious. Incense smells, certain astrological symbols, certain mantras, just things like that would get them into an altered state. And then if you actually try it, if you got the nerve and you're a wild man and you try some of this stuff, you see that it works, right? Like it manifests itself into this world somehow. And so that's always fascinated me. That's why I always thought it was more than just a scientific thing.
I think that some of these things, it's just as they're real. It just may be that there's no scientific explanation yet for why they work. This film I just made a documentary called You Are What You Act. It's a crazy story. It's about how Tom Cruise, the actor, but not just Tom Cruise, Harrison Ford, a bunch of other people, a bunch of movie stars have become their roles in real life. Tom Cruise has rescued people in real life on 6 different occasions. Harrison Ford has done it 3 times, as if they're acting out scenes from their films.
Really?
And yeah, that's what you can check it out. There's a trailer, You Are What You Act.
That's fascinating.
Ryan Gosling's done it a couple times. Kate Winslet carried a woman out of a burning building. And the pattern we found when we made the movie was that all the movie stars, and there's a lot of them, that have acted out heroically tend to be physical actors. Well, obviously they're actors who play heroic roles, but they also tend to do their own stunts. That's because they embody the role. And then so if they are in a pinch, they're more likely to act out in a way that is courageous or heroic. Now, but getting back to what you're saying, is it points to like a weird thing that people like Tom Cruise are kind of making the world in their image, meaning Tom Cruise like plays an action hero in his movies, but he's also an action hero in real life, in the real world, which sort of says that he's distorting reality as he goes. And I just finished like a 2-year investigation of the phenomenon. I can tell you it's quite weird. But this can, part of it can be explained by science, but part of it can't. But it's quite interesting.
Do you ever get into any Carl Jung's? Have you ever studied that at all?
Of course. When I did this film, so one of Carl Jung's powerful theories is that there's a collective unconscious. So let me tell you about the 9/11 doc, because it relates to what you're asking. On this 9/11 doc, we're trying to figure out how could people have dreamt about 9/11 before it happened. So there is a phenomenon called precognitive dreaming, which could be explained scientifically. So let me explain that. let's say you're in a small village, and in the village, one person is a murderer, and they're planning to kill somebody, okay? So it might be possible that if you're a sensitive person, you might pick up, like, kind of instinctively this guy's plans, like that he's going to murder somebody. And then when he does, and then you have a dream about it. Okay, and then when it happens, like you kill somebody, then you're like, oh my God, that's just like in my dream. Now, it's not that necessarily you're seeing the future. It's that you have an instinct for predicting things that are happening in your environment. So that's a scientifically studied phenomena in precognitive dreaming. Now, the other idea is that Carl Jung's idea is that there's a collective unconscious, which means that the theory is that dreams somehow connect, that our dreams may pool at night when we're dreaming somehow, and that other people's dreams might sort of get into our heads. This is possibly an explanation that the people that committed 9/11 themselves were dreaming about it before it happened, and somehow others picked it up. So that's like another explanation for how it could happen. And in fact, there's a really weird video in our documentary. We found a famous video of Osama bin Laden. And one of the videos is Osama bin Laden talking about 9/11 after it happened, where he talks about one of the hijackers coming to him. And I don't know if you know this, but not all the hijackers knew they were going to fly into buildings. Some of them were kept in the dark. They didn't know they were going to die. They knew they were hijacking the planes. They didn't know they were going to die. And so one of the hijackers came to Osama bin Laden and told him, I keep having dreams. This is on video. This is on video that was played on CNN. I keep having dreams of planes crashing into buildings and death. And Osama bin Laden tells the story, and he said, I told the hijacker, stop thinking about it. Don't have those dreams anymore. And that's basically the end of it. But the point is that the hijackers themselves were dreaming about it before it happened. So the Carl Jung theory is one of the possible explanations that somehow we are connected by our dreams, and that we may pick up huge, major events or seismic events before they happen, and we have the ability to predict, major events. And it can possibly even be explained scientifically, though I don't think the science is there yet.
Yeah, I wonder if it's, sometimes I wonder if we're, and I know this sounds wild, but sometimes I wonder if we're not just predicting, but we're kind of creating it in a way.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like when we all focus on something like war or bad things, and we say, man, the earth is just coming to an end, and everybody starts believing that, now you got all this stuff happening. I'm like, I wish there's this part of me deep down that's like, I wish you guys would stop saying that. I wish you guys would stop focusing on it, because I don't, like I said, I really don't think it's one of the things I believe with my whole heart is we don't believe our own power. Like, I'm not saying that we're gods or anything. I just think that we don't really understand our own power, so to speak.
I know what you're talking about, and I don't know how. I know exactly what you're talking about. It's a lot of that stuff is going on around climate change right now, where people are pretty scared about what's coming, and they're talking in apocalyptic terms, and people are saying, be careful what you're talking about, because yes, we manifest our nightmares. In hypnosis, there's a saying, what we resist persists. So that's part of the problem. You got to change your relationship to things that you're afraid of. Otherwise, you manifest them. And that's a real thing. I see it all the time. I know. I think you're right. We are creating reality, though. But then on the other hand, if somebody said, well, then how come you haven't created $1 million? You know what I mean?
Right.
So there are rules to the game, but there are things that we seem to be able to affect, and it's a very sneaky, messy system by which we alter our realities.
One of the things you hear a lot is about hypnotism, though. is that it's not real, right? Like it's fake. It's just people that are just doing whatever they're being told, and other people don't.
Yes.
What do you think about that?
Okay, so this has been a big issue for me because I've done a bunch of videos for TEDx. I've done them for IdeaCIty, where I demonstrate amazing things. And I can tell you what they are. One is I believe, and I'll tell you why, that it's possible to recreate any drug or alcohol state under hypnosis. So I can take somebody, hypnotize them. I can put them on ecstasy. I can put them on cocaine, heroin, crystal meth, and then I can take them off it in about 10 seconds. And they're totally sober. I did an event called the Hypnotic Bar, where it was a bar full of people. We hypnotized them to be drunk, but they're only drinking water, but they think they're drinking tequila. A lot of these people got so drunk they could barely walk. They couldn't pass sobriety tests. And then at the end, we woke them up and half of them drove home, totally sober. So after I did this, a bunch of people, of course, were like, this can't be possible. It must be fake. I assure you it's not fake. It's real. I can do it. I'm not the only one who can do it. I can even explain how to do it. But then when I did this TEDx, I tried to explain, the exact model of how hypnosis works. And I can explain it, the whole thing. But part of the thing was I used volunteers. I turned people into chickens. I showed how people could be knocked out by hypnosis, and people just could not believe it. I got thousands of messages of people saying, this is fake. You're an actor. I can't believe this is real. I assure you it is real. And I can explain why. So one of the reasons why people get confused is when they see a stage hypnosis show. So you see a guy become a chicken. You just don't think it's real. You just think it's too kooky. If you see people forgetting their own names, you see people with their hands stuck to their heads, you see people who the number 7 has disappeared. I assure you, all of those things are real. You can take a course if you want. You can sign up for a course. You got to put some time into it, but you could do it too. Anyone can learn how to do these things. Anyone. And I can explain what happens. The crazy thing that happens if you've been to a stage hypnosis show is you'll see people go limp. Literally, the hypnotist often takes their hand or shakes their hand, and the people often go limp or they droop. This phenomena, which I explain in my TEDx, is probably explained by sleep paralysis. So let me explain what that is. When you fall asleep, your body chemistry changes so that you actually go limp. Now, why is that? Because at night you have dreams. Often, a lot of your dreams, you're running, you're punching people, you're eating. If you didn't go into sleep paralysis, you would run out of your bed. You would punch your wife. You would do crazy things. Your body needs to be limp so that you can basically sleep. So that's what we do in hypnosis is we recreate that sleep paralysis state so that we can put people into what is in effect a waking dream state. So they're awake, but they're dreaming. Now, if you look at people that are in trance, and I always try to point this out when I demonstrate hypnosis, look closely at their eyes. You will see something amazing. Their eyes are flickering back and forth as if they are dreaming. And that is the most powerful explanation for what hypnosis is. I can go on, but I don't want to keep going on. But
yeah, sure. I want to get into that actually, because that's where you get into the real mystery of things. Look, guys, we're here with Albert Nerenberg. Don't forget to sign up to the newsletter at lightingthevoid.com. I'm Joe Rupert, live on the Fringe FM. Stay with us.
Listen to my voice. Listen to my voice. Listen. You can think of things that you can hear my voice. Hear nothing but my voice. I'm your friend. You can talk to me. You can talk to me.
This is Corbin, son of the one and only Joe Root, and you're listening to The Fringe FM.
So, have you heard of heavy metals? I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. No, not cleansing the outside of your body, but cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM. Have you heard? She's coming.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
This is Rev Dan Lopez from Spiritual Warrior Today Radio, and you're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Alex Exum.
This is Alex Exum of the Exum Experience in Live Talk, where we discuss current events, society, and culture. My shows are based in actuality, actual existence, contrasted with what was intended, expected, or believed. You can listen to me live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. only on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Hey Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
We all have that story to tell in our lives. The winds were howling. The ground shook. You could hear rushing water. And then history repeats itself. When there's no power, refrigeration fails. Stores with their shelves stripped bare. ATMs can't operate. Deliveries stop. Then what? These events can last days or weeks. You need a plan. In statements made during recent interviews, FEMA Administrator Brock Long has repeatedly urged all Americans to understand three truths. FEMA is broke, the system is broken. If this is the new normal, Americans can't rely on federal cavalry when disaster strikes. Don't get caught out in the elements empty-handed. Prepare with us by going to preparewiththefringe.com and get your 2-week food supply. 92 servings, 8 food varieties with 25-year shelf life. Normally $137, now only $75. Or get a month's supply, normally $247, now only $147, shipped in one business day. Just go to preparewiththefringe.com or call 888-440-7931. That's 888-440-7931. Get this great offer and be prepared while it lasts.
This is Reverend John M. Polk from johnpolkmedia.com, and you are listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Now listen. Listen to my voice. You can hear nothing, think of nothing but my voice. But in your sleep, you will hear my voice. And you will answer. You will answer. You will answer. Open your eyes and look into mine. Open your eyes. Listen to my voice. Listen. You can think of nothing, hear nothing but my voice. I am your friend, trying to save you. You can talk to me as if you were speaking the words within your own soul. Now you may sleep. 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 I want you to remember all the events which led to your coming to this inn. Tell me everything.
So that's a movie called Black Magic, which has Orson Welles in it. But do you do the Follow My Voice? That's like an old school style of hypnotism. But I think when we think about hypnotism, Albert, that's what we think about, stuff like that, and that's why I think people think it's fake sometimes, because I don't think it's fake, though. I really don't.
Let me tell you, it's not fake. Well, I do understand why people think it is, but it's unfortunate because there's so much that you can get out of hypnotism. There's so many good things. Like, for example, you can de-traumatize people very quickly. You can, like I said, you can get people drunk without side effects. There's a lot of amazing aspects of hypnosis. You can improve people's confidence. There's so many good things. And unfortunately, it has a lot to do with the history. There's a weird story which actually involves Benjamin Franklin. I'll tell the story as fast as I can, but in 1789, there's a fellow named Franz Anton Mesmer. He was an Austrian doctor who had a very magnetic personality, was living in Paris, and he believed that he could hypnotize people. The word hypnosis did not even exist at the time. He called it animal magnetism. And people would go into trance often around him. He would talk to them in particular ways. Their eyes would roll up in their heads, a lot of weird behavior. And he also would often treat as many as 3,000 people a day for various ailments. Anyways, the medical establishment at the time got wind of this, and they actually called a kind of inquiry. And because it was a big deal, the King of France called in Benjamin Franklin, who happened to be in Paris because he was the ambassador to France at the time. And he and a bunch of other sort of luminaries, including, I think, the guy who invented the guillotine, were on this panel. And when they asked Mesmer to show up and demonstrate hypnosis, Mesmer, who was kind of arrogant, didn't show up. He sent his assistant. And apparently the assistant did a really bad job and was not very impressive. And so since then, they declared that, hypnosis, or the phenomena at the time, was really a nonsensical occult phenomena, and occult in the sense of, having no real explanation and just appealing to mysticism. And Mesmer himself died in obscurity. And so since then, I think that hypnosis, which really can be done, I can walk into any room of people and hypnotize people in that room. I can demonstrate dramatic hypnotic phenomena, and anybody who's well trained can actually do that as well. But since Mesmer, hypnosis has always been seen as either an occult kind of witchcraft kind of connected aspect, or worse, a kind of devilish, satanic, dark phenomena. And I do hypnotherapy, all day long, and I assure you that you're not there going, you will listen to my voice.
Right.
You will listen to my commands.
Right.
Because it actually doesn't work. You can, on stage I can get people to do crazy things, but they want to. They're on stage to, have fun. But, I often tell people this. A lot of people are worried. They say, hey, you're a powerful hypnotist. What's to stop you from, hypnotizing me?
Right.
Getting me to send you like $5,000 and then hypnotizing me to forget that I sent it to you and then forgetting that I even met you. And then now I'll tell you why you can't do that, because there's a very clear reason. Yes, I can make people forget things under hypnosis. So I can make people forget their names. I've made people forget how to speak English. I've had people forget that they have legs. But that's while they're in trance. While they're in trance, I can make them do all those things. But once they wake up, it comes back to them a bit like a dream. They're going to remember, holy cow, that guy made me forget I had legs. That guy took $1,000, told me I'd forget. So you would get caught. See, if you could really do this, you would hear all the time stories about hypnotists. Like there's hypnotists all over America. You would hear stories about hypnotists robbing people right and left because they would just like hypnotize people, send me $10,000 and now forget you ever did it and forget my name and that you ever met me. And they would get away with it, but you can't, but you don't. There was an example in Russia, I think, of a hypnotist that would hypnotize people, cashiers in a store, and he would hypnotize them to take the money out and pour it into a bag. Now, I could do that too, but the problem is I don't know if it's going to work consistently, and I don't know if the person is going to stay in trance, and I also don't know, and I can't be sure they won't remember that they did it. And that's what happened. The guy got caught. He, a few times it worked, but then he got caught. There's another example of this that's quite amazing, is that there's a guy, actually a hypnotist friend of mine, his stage name is Spidey. He demonstrated that he could hypnotize cops out of giving him tickets. And so what he did very deliberately is he drove at high speed through a stop sign where he knew there was a cop waiting for people. And so he got pulled over, and the guy said, and the cop, it's all videotaped. The cop says, do you know that you went through the stop sign at twice the speed limit? And the guy basically says yes, and he snaps his fingers, and he says to him, have you ever been somewhere and forgotten why you're there?
I think I saw that. I think I saw that.
Yeah.
And he just gets him to talk and forgets about everything. Yeah.
Now, I assure you that is real. I know the hypnotist. It's true. But if you watch the whole video, the hypnotist himself explains it doesn't work every time. And he shows you a ticket for $156 that he got when it didn't work. Because that's the other thing about it, is that hypnosis is extremely impressive when you see somebody who is hypnotized. But you can't get everybody into trance. So, I believe everybody's hypnotizable, but if you put those people on stage with me, I would only work with the people I know I can hypnotize. And I can't, if you give me anybody and you say, hypnotize this guy, I might not be able to do it. I'll admit, I might not be able to do it. So the problem with that is it doesn't work every time. And that's probably a good thing. You wouldn't want it to work every time.
And so what does that imply though? Or do you think maybe, okay, there's real limits to this, right? Or maybe we just haven't learned how to tap into it. Maybe we're just scratching the surface.
Okay. You're very insightful, and I think you're right. And it's funny, when you opened the show, you said something kind of crazy that really got me thinking, which is, you said, it's not like we're the X-Men or the mutants. And what's weird is it is like people are the X-Men. So let me explain. 20% of the population is what hypnotists call somnambulant, which means those people can go into a deep trance very quickly. So how stage hypnosis works, I'm giving away all the secrets here, and I'll explain why. I believe when I do hypnosis shows, I always say hypnosis is the common property of humanity. It doesn't belong to hypnotists. And so people have a right to know how they work. They have a right to know how their unconscious works. And it can be explained. So in a stage hypnosis, what they do at the beginning of the show is they actually test. They invite the audience, and basically because 20% of the population is likely to be hypnotizable, they narrow it down. They narrow it down to the most hypnotizable people. And those are the people that you can turn into chickens and do crazy things with. The rest of the audience is basically not hypnotized. Now,
so what makes them different, though? What makes them different than everybody else?
See, that's a big question, and actually, that's one of the things that people don't know. So, for example, if you ask, like, why are some people more hypnotizable? My theory, and this is my theory, is that they are the next step in human evolution, and let me explain why. So, I have friends who are super hypnotizable, and I often joke with them. I say, just call me if you ever get a headache, because I can make if somebody is very hypnotizable, I can make their headache go away in a minute, and it'll just be gone. And often they do. So friends will often call me up. They'll say, Albert, I've got this terrible headache. And if I know they're very hypnotizable, I put them into trance and I get rid of their headache in a minute, and they're totally fine then. So that will only work because they're very hypnotizable. Also, people that are very hypnotizable can have operations while they're awake. So this sounds crazy, but you can do abdominal surgery on people that are very hypnotizable while they're awake. You can be talking to them while you're operating on them. This is a whole crazy story that started a long time ago, but this also can be explained. It looks like magic, but actually has a scientific basis. So that phenomena is also, it would be an advantage to be able to do that, because the other phenomena would be if somebody broke their leg and they were in tremendous pain and they were, in trouble. If I knew that they were deeply hypnotizable, and people often are when they're in trouble, I could put them in trance and they wouldn't feel a thing. And the other aspect of this is that I see this all the time. One of my clients is a fitness model champion in California. She just won actually a major championship, and she went from being a very underconfident, kind of small, tiny person to winning fitness championship after fitness championship. She was like she's a weightlifter. She looks fantastic. And I think the reason that she did so well is because she is very hypnotizable. And it allows her to really become the things that she wants to become more than somebody who's less hypnotizable.
So it's not really a weakness then, per se,
no.
What you're saying.
But it's exactly like the X-Men, because when people experience it, they experience it as a weakness first. So, for example, people that are hypnotizable are more prone to addiction. So a lot of people that have addictions are just people that are hypnotized by drugs. So they would experience it as, what's wrong with me? I'm an addict. Why am I an addict? But then when they recover, they find out that they kind of have superpowers. And this is, so I personally believe, and it's only my theory. In fact, I'm making a film about it, where the idea is to show that, wouldn't it be better? Like, for example, a hypnotizable person is a person that can change their programs. They can change their programs quickly. They can get rid of anxiety. They can put away fear. They can build confidence. They can even change their personality. Isn't that better than somebody who takes like weeks or months to do the same thing? And so there are a lot of advantages to being really hypnotizable. You can heal yourself. Hypnosis can stop a wound from bleeding. It's not magic. I can't really explain it, but it's something along the lines of talking to the deeper unconscious and talking to the cell system itself.
So what do you why do you say it like it's not magic? And I understand what you're saying. It's not like stage magic but it's not a magical I think it kind of is. I mean, how do we explain stuff like that? We call it magic, the unexplained. It just doesn't.
But I would say, so if I hypnotize somebody who's totally sober to be drunk, you would say it kind of looks like magic, but I can give you a full explanation for it. If I operated on somebody, I would never do this, but if I, sawed somebody's leg off while they're awake, which is possible with hypnosis, you would say, wow, that's some weird magic, but it's not. So all these things are just things that are a little bit beyond contemporary understanding, but I'm not even saying even the fact, let me tell you about, I wrote an article about people being turned into chickens. So this is like a conventional stage hypnosis thing. People go on stage and your friend goes on stage. Next thing you know, your friend is like, talking like a chicken.
Right.
Now, okay. And it's crazy because there's your friend Bob and he's acting like a chicken. Now, let me tell you something crazy about this. There's a reason why hypnotists do this. It's actually quite impressive because when people act like chickens, they are very serious. They are chickens. They're behaving like chickens. Like your friend Bob isn't Bob anymore. He's a chicken. That looks like magic. Now, let me give you the explanation. I'm going to drop the science on you right now. And the science is crazy and the implications are huge. Human beings, they think, have a phenomena called dream neutrality. So what is dream neutrality? Dream neutrality is the ability to live your dreams, regardless what they are. So let me explain what that means. Let's say you're having a dream that you're being chased by a pack of wolves, okay? That's bad. You're being chased by a pack of wolves. They're going to tear you apart. Okay, so in your dream, you have that dream, and a lot of people have this dream. You're really scared, and you figure out, climb the fucking tree. Get up the tree, now. Now, the idea of that is we think that evolutionarily, if you had dreams where you figured out you should climb the tree when the wolves are chasing you, you're going to have a better chance of survival. So it's now, if you have that dream and you're thinking, I know I'm having a dream where wolves are chasing me, so I'm not really that worried about it, and I'm not going to do anything about it because it's just a dream. Your dream doesn't teach you anything. You got to believe the dream for it to teach you something. So this is why people become chickens. Basically, when a guy's in a stage hypnosis show and he's a chicken, it's because he's having a dream where he's a chicken and he believes it. He really believes, like, I'm a chicken. And this phenomena has made us the most powerful animal on earth, where we can have these very wild, varied experiences in our dreams that we then believe. And we need to believe them so that they will teach us things. This is part of my theory of how hypnosis works. Not everybody agrees, but this is why I think it works.
Wow. Yeah, see, I've had some crazy dreams, though. But, I mean, I see what you mean, like, climb the effing tree or get involved with whatever, because if you don't, you're going to be stuck, right? So you've solved it. You got to do what you got to do in the dream. But when I was reading Carl Jung's material, I mean, he really looked at this thing just like you were talking about the dreams, like you can interact with this realm and have it affect your physical life, or you could do it the other way around too. It's kind of like some crazy, like you're in a world of symbols and dreams and ideas, and if you learn how to tap into it, it can affect your physical life. You can manifest things, you can fix things, solve things, etc. And I wonder if that's what we're missing, right? Because everybody talks about this grand conspiracy, Albert, right? They call it a dark cabal. They call it, they've called it the New World Order, the Illuminati. And I think that it's more like they understand these type of things, like certain advertising agencies tap into these things. Certain companies understand these things, product pushers, you know what I mean?
But let me tell you, a lot of times people are worried about mind control and hypnosis, and absolutely. I mean, there's a whole field of hypnosis that's the science of persuasion. There's a whole field of hypnosis that's about using conversational hypnosis to possibly control people, and you can do some amazing things. Like you can get people to scratch their heads. You can do these sort of weird things that are like in a conversation. But here's the weird thing: a lot of the real powerful mind control is happening in plain sight. Meaning, if you were watching a show and a guy said, or if you were watching like a political debate and one of the politicians suddenly said, "Now, follow my voice. You will see that what I am saying is the truth, and you will always only vote for me." You would go, for a second, you might go,
yeah,
what?
whatever, dude.
And then you go,
right, yeah.
Then you'd go, yeah, whatever, dude. You'd go like, no. And that's because that style of hypnosis would not work in that situation. But here's a style of hypnosis that does work in that situation. I'll give you a really clear example. So if you want to understand a really big difference between the conscious and the unconscious mind, this is the big one. And if you understand this, you actually understand about 30% of hypnosis. The conscious mind can understand yes and no. So you can say, would you like a hamburger? Yes or no. But the unconscious mind thinks only in pictures. It only thinks in visual images and in sounds. So, for example, this is why people that are addicted to drinking can never say, I got to quit drinking. I got to quit drinking. I got to stop drinking. I got to stop smoking. That doesn't work because the unconscious mind doesn't understand yes or no, and it just hears drinking, or smoking. And this yes or no thing makes a huge difference. The prefrontal cortex, or the executive mind, that is what most of us are in during the day, can understand, don't do this. So, for example, it can understand, don't eat a hamburger. If I tell you don't eat that hamburger, you can understand that. But the unconscious mind just hears hamburger. So let me explain how people use this phenomena to manipulate people. So part of this is, if I'm a politician, let's say, it's to my advantage to use pictures to talk to people. So a great example is your current president. I'll give you a really clear example. Remember, he used to call Hillary, or still does, crooked Hillary. Mm-hmm. So crooked Hillary is a picture. You can see that. You're like, oh, Hillary, and she's all crooked. And that sticks in your mind. That's hypnosis. He's actually made a hypnotic suggestion. Crooked Hillary. And that sticks in your mind. Hillary, on the other hand, says, my opponent is not ethical. He's not a very good person, and he's corrupt. There's all these sort of fancy talk language that's actually directed to the other part of the brain.
So it's like programming, right? Where you just keep, if you give somebody a picture over and over and over and over again, it programs into their mind. That's like one form of hypnosis, is what you're saying.
That's right. especially if they already like it, and especially if they're already leading that way. So when I say Crooked Hillary, you start singing that and she's bad and she should go to jail, lock her up. They're all pictures. Lock her up is a picture too. You know, her behind bars, it's pictures. Pictures are way more powerful than abstract words to the unconscious mind. And when you start, and I would say like Donald Trump is a hypnotist because that's his thing. Now, you don't have to be trained in hypnosis to understand this, but you can sometimes people have a sense for it. They have a sense that if I use more visual language, I'm going to be more persuasive. They just know that, you know. But I think that Trump, he has famously studied the arts of persuasion, NLP, all those things. So I think he has a sense for it. I don't think he considers himself to be a hypnotist, but people have pointed out even his handshake is actually like a hypnotic shock induction. So you may see, if you can see this phenomena in a stage hypnosis show where the hypnotist walks up to somebody, shakes their hand, and the person drops into trance. That's not fake. It's real. I can tell you how it works.
Okay. Well, I want to get into that, but I also wanted to talk about trance as well and get into some of these things. Look, this is an important discussion, right? Because all of you that feel like you're victim to things in this world and pre-programmed, the topic tonight is how does that happen to you? So you can become aware of it, right? Think about that. We'll be right back.
Howdy, this is Catalina, and you're listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop.
Hello, this is Vance Nesbitt. Take the time to expand your mind by listening to Lighting the Void with Joe Roop right here on the Fringe FM.
This is Crow 777, and you are listening to the Fringe FM.
We've heard your feedback loud and clear. You called it out, and now we're answering. All new live programming, 5 nights a week. Always remember, the Fringe FM is for you, the listener, and we appreciate your feedback. Keep the feedback coming. You can email us at talkback@thefringe.fm, call the station at 501-777-5631, or send us a message on Facebook at The Fringe FM.
If you are interested in occult subjects, psychic abilities, symbols, tarot, witchcraft, magic, or anything similarly related, my book Occult Arcana will provide you with a truly objective overview of these topics and more. Written in anything but modern language, Occult Arcana was compiled to help researchers balance their quest for a better understanding of the meanings of and in such studies. Occult Arcana is available in softcover and digital form from www.thesecretteachings.info. All copies can also be autographed if requested. That's Occult Arcana from www.thesecretteachings.info.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now. The Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Alex Exum.
This is Alex Exum of the Exum Experience in Live Talk, where we discuss current events, society, and culture. My shows are based in actuality, actual existence, contrasted with what was intended, expected, or believed. You can listen to me live Tuesdays at 7 p.m. only on KTLK, The Fringe FM.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Hey, this is Moonlit, stopping by to remind all you Fringe FM listeners that there would be no Christmas without Joe Roop. He is the reason for the season, folks. Reverend Moon out. Now jingle my bell, darling. Ooh, that's the spot. Here comes the moon nog, babies. Ho, ho, ho.
To call Joe, pick up the phone, dial 1-800-588-0335, toll free from the United States or Canada. You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
All right, welcome back to Lighting the Void. Tonight we're here with Albert Nerenberg, hypnotist and laughologist, and we're discussing the unconscious or the subconscious mind. And before the break, we were talking about like trance. Trance is something that really fascinates me because there's a whole lot of methods that I'm going to talk about later that gets into like the magic and the occult. But other things, I mean, like I got a question in the chat about, hey, could Albert get us all drunk or in here? But trance, like you're saying, it takes a little time to get in there, but it's a pretty special thing.
Yes, so we could get people drunk. Now again, the part of the issue is not everybody could do it quickly, but about 1 in 4 can, and especially if they're motivated. Also, I could need to be in the same room with them, but I would say if I wasn't, maybe it's about 1 in 8. So yeah. So in hypnosis, there's lots of levels of trance, and actually your listeners can kind of experience this even while I'm talking about it. I'll try to explain it. So we think there's 7 levels of trance. The first level of trance would be just, if you think about yourself just staring out the window, you're just sitting and staring out the window, you're in a trance. You're in a light trance. You know that you're sitting and looking out the window, but it's a trance. The second level of trance is where you're sitting out the window, looking out the window, but you're thinking of yourself, let's say, sitting on a beach. Now, it's kind of like you're distant, you're somewhere else. That's a second level trance. Third level trance, you're sitting looking out the window, you're on the beach. You don't know that you're not on the beach. You're so deep in the dream that you don't know it. That's a third level trance. That's when weird things start to happen. Fourth level trance is where pain can be controlled. So we can stop people from feeling pain. We can saw off their legs. By the way, I'm joking about I would never saw off somebody's leg. It's just weird that it's possible. And then there are even deeper trances, one called coma, where the person almost appears to be dead. but they're just in a profoundly deep trance. And these things can happen by accident. There was an example of a guy did a stage hypnosis show in a girls' school, and he put these girls into trance, and they accidentally went way deeper than he intended, and he couldn't wake them up. And so when the show was over, he's like, "Okay, everybody, show's over." He couldn't wake them up, and the teacher started freaking out. They called the principal. It was like a big problem. Anyways, they had to call like an experienced hypnotist in who actually woke them up in like 30 seconds. He knew how to do it. But it was the point is that there are very deep levels of trance and these things are not well understood, like how they work and why they work. But the truth is that probably everybody can experience them.
Yeah, I've listened to some of the tapes, like Hypnotist tapes and Hypnotism. I use it for relaxation. But, everybody knows that I've had like this out-of-body experience or whatever. But one thing the Monroe Institute did was put you in a trance, right? That's what they did. You did the breathing and stuff, and then they talk you into a trance. And then that's how you could kind of like stay aware as the body was falling asleep. It was really weird. You wouldn't fall asleep, and then you would actually feel your body become paralyzed, and you're like, whoa, but as soon as I don't know, it's kind of hard to explain. You have to like stay in that state. But I think I understand why it happens, like kind of maybe scientifically, but what I don't understand and what I believe is kind of magical and mystical in a way is like the placebo, the placebo effect. Think about that. Like if we could, everybody's trying to find a drug to cure everybody of their opiate addictions or their drug addictions, but what if we could really tap into our own power and just get rid of it?
Exactly. And in fact, I mean, the reason I developed the hypnotic bar was I was working in a rehab, and I got into kind of an argument with some of the addicts who were staying there about whether or not drugs are really behind the blood-brain barrier. So let me explain. When you take like a drug, is the drug in your brain making you feel things, or is the blood just acting on the chemistry in your brain that's making you feel things? And the reason that matters is it stands to reason that I believe that everything good you experience, let's say from drugs or alcohol, is actually produced by your brain, especially the good things. So, for example, ecstasy, the feeling you might have in ecstasy is produced by your brain. You don't need to pay for ecstasy to do it. And similarly, even with alcohol, you don't need to put this sort of toxic solvent in your body. You can actually recreate the effect. Now, you've probably been around friends who are really giddy and they're laughing and they're lightheaded and they haven't slept. And they'll say, I feel like I'm drunk. And that's sort of that's them accidentally stumbling on it, but I can do it very specifically. Like I have to work on people for a little time, but I can put them in a state of drunkenness and they will experience drunkenness. And the key thing is without side effects. And what I'm trying to prove is that the really exciting things that happen to you, let's say on drugs or alcohol, most of them, because I wouldn't say this is true of ayahuasca, even though I've done hypnotic ayahuasca, is that it's really your brain that is creating the exciting part of it, not the drug. And anybody who's addicted to something, they're like, I love alcohol or I love cocaine. But no, it's not the alcohol. It's not the cocaine. It's your brain.
Yeah, it's kind of like why people are addicted to, when it comes to cigarettes, they're addicted to just lighting the cigarette or all of the sounds and symbols with it. And that's what right. I was talking about earlier with ritual. Like people don't understand that. They call it black magic, but we do rituals every day, every single day. So wouldn't it be better if you were in control of what you were doing, if you could actually program yourself? Yeah, it looks a little weird, saying things, mantras, symbols, and smells, but it's not black magic. It's black magic to me if you don't understand it and somebody's using it against you. That's why it's called that.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And I'm also not saying there isn't parts that are mysterious or can't be explained. But like, I'll give you an example. Happens to me a lot when I'm working with people in hypnosis and they're in very deep. I will often say something and they will say, I already knew you were going to say that. And it happens too much that they will even have really set aside and remembered the thing I was going to say. And then I say it. So time distortion is an experience within hypnosis, or a sense that you can sort of bend time. There's a lot of weird sides to it, but I would say that what's important and what we're saying on the show is that the bulk of the wild and crazy stuff is real. It's actually real. Pain relief, hypnotic drugs. I'm doing a documentary right now, even a crazier thing. There's evidence that sexual behavior is also hypnosis. This is one of the reasons why people are nervous about hypnosis. They're worried that they might do something weird or feel something weird. But there's a lot of proof that sexual states are actually trance states. When you are sexually aroused, like, think about it. When people are sexually aroused, what do they look like? Their eyes are fixed.
Buffoons, really. We think we look cool, but we probably look like buffoons, honestly.
No. You're in trance. You're in trance usually, and you're in a sexual trance. So, and in hypnosis, we can change people's sexual programs. Like, often as a joke, in a stage hypnosis show, I will make people sexually attracted to a chair, because they will be. They'll actually be like, "Whoa, that chair is sexy."
Come on, are you serious? Like they get attracted to chairs.
Yes, they're attracted to chairs. Now people are saying, like, for the rest of their lives, they're going to try to mate with a chair. No, because here's a weird thing you got to understand about hypnosis. In trance, you can make any suggestion. You can suggest to somebody, you're going to fall in love with that chair and you're going to want to spend the rest of your life. Now, the problem is that that suggestions only usually take, if they have resonance in that person's life. So if this guy already had a thing for chairs, if he really loves chairs already, and I say to him, you're going to finally fall in love with a chair and propose marriage, then it might happen. But what would only happen is that while in trance, the person will have feelings for the chair, but when you wake them up, they don't any longer. They just wake up and they're like, whoa. I mean, at the time, the chair looked pretty sexy, but I don't think so anymore.
That is wild. That's wild, man.
It is wild.
I think I would like to learn how to do this stuff. I think everybody wants to learn how to do it, but once they realize it takes a little bit of effort, I think they kind of back off this stuff, because it's easier to, be a victim than learn what's really controlling your mind,
Actually, that's really true. You just said something very important. It's easier to be a victim than to actually take control of your life, because one of the things I learned, like I should explain, I do two different things, which is I do hypnotherapy and I do stage hypnosis. And they have different. Stage hypnosis is about entertaining people. Hypnotherapy is about helping people. And in hypnotherapy, I just one of the first rules is stop being a victim. That people who are, if you look at the reality of life right now, and I think a lot of people are waking up to this, is that people that have trouble, that are kind of not doing well in life, are being blown around by the storm. They think, the whole world is picking on them. They're always a victim. Everybody's ganging up on them. And so they're, that's why they are what they are. Mm-hmm. But they're not really taking responsibility for their lives. They're not actually figuring out what they can do. And so but you're right. Hypnosis, what it is ultimately, is a tool to approach this very mysterious part of all of us, our unconscious, which is 97% of our thoughts are unconscious. It explains why we have weird instincts, why we have weird feelings about people, why we have bad habits, and that's what we decode in hypnosis. We have to figure out why you do what you do. And once we do, we can change it. You can change a lot of really bad habits, and you can also create good habits.
I think one of the weirdest things, like the creepiest things that you're into, to me it's kind of creepy, but I understand it a little bit, like Laughology, right? Everybody loves to laugh, and you do get in a trance when you laugh, right? You do. You just get in like a weird trance, and I can talk about that later when it comes to things like psychedelics, because you do get in a weird trance with that as well. But when I saw that TEDx where you were on stage, and people just this woman started doing something where she saw everybody was naked in the audience, right? And then people started to laugh, and then it kind of had this weird laughter, like you were pushing it along, I could tell. So you heard people kind of going, haha, just laughing, and then you did it too. And then everybody had this weird, like, laughing trance moment. And it felt kind of creepy, but at the same time, I could just tell it was happening.
Yes. Yeah, I know. Well, I hope, like, my intention is never to be creepy in a sense.
Yeah, I know
I'm not in the business of controlling people. And it's funny because a lot of times people are like mind control, telling people what to do. And I always say, like, I used to be, when I was young, I was a theater director. And I was like, if you want to see mind control, if you want to see people being controlled, go to a play or a movie, because that's where people are being told, like, say the line like this, walk like this, look like this, talk like that. That's where people are really, really being controlled. Stage hypnosis is like a bit like a fun game. Like, it's like, hey, buddy, what if you really, really relax and go into a deep trance? Do you think you'd like to be a chicken? And then the person's like, okay. It's there's a playful side to it. You don't. When I do shows, I always try to keep it light, because I don't want people to go, oh my God, I was a chicken, or I was Mick Jagger, and I'm so embarrassed now. Like, the truth is, anybody in deep trance will become the chicken. I know a lot of people are listening now and saying, no, not me. Would never happen to me. But I would tell you, if you were in the deep trance, and that might be tricky to get you in, but if you were in it, you will become the chicken.
And you really think you're a chicken. That's the weird part about it.
Yeah.
You really believe that.
Yeah. While you're in the trance, you really believe it. Now, there's an interesting thing. One of the controversial things about the TEDx I did is that I told people that they were tremendous kung fu masters. And there's a guy who demonstrates like insane kung fu. He does not know kung fu. But it looks kind of impressive. And I've seen this a bunch of times where you hypnotize people to do kung fu and they're like, wow, they're like pretty good. Anyways, what makes it weirder is that the second woman, who also is told she's a kung fu master, goes up and starts doing kung fu, but while she's doing it, she starts to laugh. Like, she's laughing like, holy shit, what am I doing? And
that's weird. Yeah.
I often explain, yeah, it's very weird. Now, I have an explanation, because I've seen this phenomenon all the time. It is possible, some people, when they're in really deep trance, they don't know. So they don't know that they're the chicken. They just are the chicken. They're feeling like a chicken. They're living like a chicken. Some people, what happens is their unconscious mind has come into control, so it's fully in control, and the conscious is sort of pushed into the background. But the conscious is still on. The conscious still is still thinking. So, for example, a lot of people think, I couldn't be hypnotized because I'm still thinking. I can hear myself thinking. But so what happened to that woman is that she wasn't in as deep. So she was deep enough, so her unconscious said, okay, I'm a kung fu master. I'm going to do kung fu. So all of a sudden, so she must have been like looking down at her own body. Her own body is like jumping around and flipping around. And she must have thought, holy cow, this is ridiculous. And so she started to laugh. But she is in trance, but she's also aware at the same time. That's just a phenomena within hypnosis. Sorry, go ahead.
Let me ask you this. If someone understood this, right, if they understood the mystery of the mind and the unconscious, a long time ago. And I don't want to offend anybody, but couldn't you make like things like, let's say, I don't know, religion, right? And then you make sure you hand out Bibles with stories and that's got deep symbolism and deep meanings. And not only do you make sure that it's out there, but you make sure that everybody reads it. You put the books in hotels, you put them on shelves, you give them away for free. You see what I'm saying? Wouldn't that be a form of mind control?
Yes. Well, let me tell you something which is pretty scary when you think about it. So remember I mentioned there's a style of hypnosis. So there's two broad styles. So one is called progressive relaxation. That's where I think you experienced that, where somebody gradually talks to you. They encourage you to relax. They show you breathing exercises. And basically, in about 10 or 15 minutes, you might slip into trance. Okay? But the second kind involves using something called snap inductions or shock inductions. And what snap inductions or shock inductions are is where you can actually, it's not well understood how it works, but I'll tell you a classic one. You tell somebody who's sitting in a chair and you tell them to stare at something on the wall. Why? Because the first step of trance is eye fixation. So they fixate their eyes, hold their eyes steady. Then you tell them to push down on your hand. And I'm telling you, people could do this right now, but you got to do it correctly. They push down on your hand and you say, and then when they push down, you pull your hand away suddenly. At that moment, if you say the word sleep, a certain percentage of the population will go limp and deep into trance. Anyone can do this. Anyone. Part of it is that a lot of people don't know the timing of it. The timing has to be exact. But if you understand the timing, the person goes into trance. And the percentage is quite high. It's higher than the 20%. It's around 30 or 40, depending on how well it's done. So the reason this works is if you cause someone to focus and then you surprise them, they are extremely open to the next suggestion. Go to any evangelical church. What do? They tell people to focus. Look at me. Look at the cross. Think about Jesus, whatever it is. Eye fixation. Stare at the altar. Eye fixation. Then they are nervous. They're breathing hard. That will often begin trance as well. Next thing I do is I bang them on the chest, shock induction, and I scream, Jesus.
Yeah, or slam the book on the altar. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
That is exactly what hypnotists do.
Wow. See, I'm not saying it is mind control. I'm just saying if there was a form of programming human beings of ultimate mind control with the understanding of the subconscious, right, and the unconscious, it would be religion, in my opinion.
That's right. No, but you're right. See, now here's the difference. Hypnosis is the one place where people are declaring it. They're saying, yes, I'm trying to affect you. I'm trying to hypnotize you. I'm doing that. But religion, they're not doing it. They're pretending, oh, no, I'm talking to God. I'm channeling Jesus. So you're dead right. And they're using hypnotic methods. And sometimes, like I said, is that some people might figure these things out by themselves because they're trying to be powerful and persuasive, but they are using hypnotic methods to affect people.
Yeah, and isn't it funny that they call you the devil, right?
Exactly.
Like he's the devil.
That's
he's
the twist.
Right, yeah.
That's
right.
I
get it. Well,
they call the hypnotists satanic, but they're the ones that are actually manipulating people.
Well, I know you got a pretty important talk in the morning, and I really appreciate you coming on the show and spending time with us. Can you tell? I know you got a bunch of links. Can you give those out over the air if you don't mind, and plug away by all means?
Sure, absolutely. So if you want to see the TEDx I did, it's called "Is Hypnosis Fake?" So I think if you just Google "Is Hypnosis Fake?" you should get it, or TEDx "Is Hypnosis Fake?" I have a YouTube channel. There's a lot of hypnosis stuff on it under my name. Now, the only thing about my name is you got to spell it right. It's Albert Nerenberg, spelled Nerenberg. It's all E's. Nerenberg, Nuremberg. So there's a YouTube channel. There's lots of hypnosis. Also, if you look up hypnotic bar, the hypnotic bar, you'll see examples of people being hypnotized to be drunk while they're sober. And I assure you that it's real. If you're interested in the movie I mentioned, it's called You Are What You Act, as in acting. And you can just Google You Are What You Act, and you should find it. Anyways, I've got a new movie coming out, but not about sexuality and hypnosis, but that's not coming out till the fall. It's probably going to be called Thanks for the Orgasms.
Nice. That'll get some people's. That'll at least get them to take a look at it. That's a good clickbait.
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
right. That's right. Yeah.
Well, yeah. But we'll keep tabs on you, and then if you come back on the show, maybe next time we can do a deep. That would be cool, right? Like some type of deep trance state. I didn't even think about doing something like that, but we could do that if you come back.
Absolutely. The only thing is that we have to be careful of people driving. It really is a risk. We really got to be careful of people driving because they can get hypnotized while they're driving. So we would probably tell people they're driving to change the station,
right?
Because it's a real problem.
Yeah, it is. And I actually know what you're talking about. That's how people fall asleep at the wheel, because they get in the trance state. And trance states are very pleasant. They feel good. So the person's like, oh, I'm feeling really good. Well, I kind of wander off the road. The problem is they don't realize how dangerous it is. So, but yes, we can do it. I would suggest next time, happy to hypnotize people right on the air. We'll see. We can get people to forget their names, the whole bit. Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for coming on the broadcast. I really appreciate it. And we'll leave all the links in the show notes as well for you.
All right. My pleasure.
All right. You have a good one. All right, guys. That was Albert Nerenberg. Go check out the websites. Laughologist. This is the stuff I've always wanted to get into, right? And so we are going to have him back. We talked about it. He'll be back at some point, and we'll get into a deeper discussion about these things. But when I come back, we're going to get into the whole mind control thing. What's really going on? I mean, are you really being mind controlled in a way that's magical and mystical, or is it just something that you're not aware of? We'll get into the occult, magic, MK Ultra. Yeah, I'm going to talk about that. We'll be right back.
After hunting down a half-ton bison, I look forward to a mind-teetering escapade evening on The Fringe FM.
From Studio 401, it's the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on The Fringe FM. I'm Vance Nesbitt, and here's our headlines. An underwater alien base known as Crystal Blue UFO is discovered near Mexico. Stalwart UFO hunter Scott Warning, who previously spotted an erotic sculpture on an asteroid in deep space and found a suspected underground base being built near Area 51, has recently announced yet another apparently extraordinary discovery he made while examining Google Earth. Evidence of an alien base laying beneath the ocean waves off the coast of Mexico, with a crystal blue UFO parked near the premises. Quote, I found this awesome crystal blue UFO at an underwater alien base off the coast of Mexico today. The UFO, according to Google Ruler, is 1.8 miles across in both directions. That's a big alien craft, Warning wrote on his blog, musing that the craft should probably be designated as an unidentified submerged object, or USO, instead. He also took note that the area he believes to be runways, speculating that they are located in an area safe of fish, sharks, whales, so that the USO can travel more safely. This is reported at BendedReality.com. And a Texas woman says she recently witnessed an alligator with what appeared to be some kind of a knife stuck in its head while swimming in a local lake, a situation she says she believes may have been a purposeful act. The gator was reportedly spotted by at least 2 witnesses inside Orchard Lake Estates in Sugar Land, Texas this week. Erin Weaver, the woman who captured the picture of the gator with the protruding knife in its head, told NBC affiliate KPRC that she saw the gator near some rocks early last Thursday during her morning walk. Weaver told multiple outlets that the area's alligators are a regular fixture of her morning walks, but were generally of little concern prior to this incident. Speaking with ABC affiliate KTRK, Weaver said she believes someone did this on purpose. I want to get help for the alligator. I don't want to see an alligator swimming around with a knife in its head, suffering. And a creature with huge teeth reported in Nebraska Park is giving rise to chupacabra rumors. Out of Charlotte, North Carolina, Mark Price of the Charlotte Observer says it was only a month ago that India's army said it found proof of the abominable snowman. So it shouldn't be a complete shock that many on Twitter now claim a chupacabra turned up in Nebraska, of all places. The proof some insist is a pair of photos tweeted Friday by Sportsman's Channel, showing half of a furry creature with a vicious-looking set of teeth and canine similarities. Among those retweeting the photos was South Carolina Department of Natural Resources. The tweet asked Twitter users to give their best guess, and that's where the chupacabra came up over and over again. Source, WBTV. And time for an extreme fun fact. The word testify is based on the ancient Roman practice of making a man swear on their testicles when making a statement in court. Thanks for listening to the Stranger Than Fiction News right here on the Fringe FM. Again, I'm Vance Nesbitt, news anchor and sorcerer.
Did you know that qualified patients can access medical cannabis in all 50 states? CannaSense is a medical cannabis collective that helps patients in all 50 states gain access to cannabis medication. CannaSense does this with a streamlined process and strict compliance with the Compassionate Use Act of 1996, the Affordable Care Act, and the U.S. Constitution. It is important for each patient to understand the legalities involved, the cost, and the benefits of cannabis medication. Through truth, legalization, and education, the medical benefits of cannabis will supplant recreational perceptions, and the real vision for change will be realized. Let the people and their personal doctors take control of their medical cannabis decisions before the greed of big business takes over. The tipping point for change is today, and CannaSense is ready to lead the charge and enable legal access for all qualified patients to medical cannabis through its proven system. For more information, go to thefringe.fm/care or click the banner on the website today.
This is Sammy. Join us in the Deep South as we're lighting the void with Joe Roop on the Fringe FM.
Hi, this is David Oman with HouseAtTheEndOfTheDrive.com. You're listening to KTLK, the Fringe FM.
Welcome back to Lighting the Void. As we transition into the late night hours, it's time to get down to it, right? This is when we're going to get into like the weird stuff, you know, the stuff that scares most people. And I got a text in our text line, which is 501-777-5631, that says, "Sorry, Joe, there's no way I'm screwing a chair. But I guess hypnosis is another handy skill. I should study up on it. Yeah, I mean, it is a handy skill, but it's more of an educational type thing, so you can understand what's happening to you. This is going to be a really touchy subject, but I believe that hypnosis is a part of our lives in more ways than we know. So it's kind of like we always talk about these systems like MK Ultra, mind control, the cabal, all these different type of things, right? We think that we're being, like we're under some type of spell. And I mean, we may be. But here's what I've experienced. Once you step outside of religion, then you start to get into, usually they either go one or the other way. You go into like science, or you go into where you're an atheist. And then that's what happened to me. I was an atheist, didn't believe in God, just totally thought it was all bull crap. Then I really got into mysticism. And then I started looking into the occult. And the occult was a fascinating thing, like magic, black magic, and we call it magic just because we don't understand it. And that's why we've talked about it so much on this show. For the simple fact that I believe it's one of the biggest things that are happening right now that we don't understand. Now, like we can call things that are magical a cabal, or we can call them dark beings or whatever. But if you've ever, it takes a lot of guts to do a ritual that's not religious, that's outside of your religion. It takes a lot of guts to do something like that. In fact, you're probably going to think it's evil if you do these types of things. Well, let's think about it. What's so evil about using things that tap into the subconscious or the unconscious, whatever you want to call it, the behind the door controlling factor, let's call it that? What's so evil about it? What's so evil about incense? What's so evil about symbols? What's so evil about colors and certain sounds? These types of things is what these are the things like what artists understand. They understand these things because it taps into the soul. They can manifest things through art. And if you look into the history of music, especially like rock and roll and stuff, you'll see that a lot of the song lyrics and stories and stuff that they, what's the word for it? They personificate, I guess, or it's a bigger word than that, actually. They glorify the symbols and the archetypes of things. And we went into that on one show where we talked about, the Blue Oyster Cult and Don't Fear the Reaper and Saturn and all that. But this is something that you have to try to experience it. You can read about it all day long. You can read books upon books and have discussions upon discussions. But until you actually attempt it, you'll never know. Now, what am I saying? I'm not saying go invoke demons or do anything like that. And that's something I'll talk about here too coming up is invocation, because that's part of it. Now, we've had magicians on the show say that they've seen these angels and they've seen demons and stuff. I don't know about that. I've seen some weird stuff, but I couldn't tell you if they were demons, angels, or what they were. But what I do know is that in my life, when I've tapped into these things, it's worked for me. I've manifested it, but not in here's the weird thing. And here's the really weird thing I think we're all trying to figure out with this. It doesn't manifest in the way that you want it to. It's kind of like, a lot of people do like magic rituals for money and stuff. And, people, they don't ever admit it, but they'll go online, they'll buy a ritual, they'll buy a course, or they'll get a candle or a money candle, and they'll do like a ritual for money. And in their mind, they're casting this stuff out to the universe. They're trying to get thousands of dollars, life-changing money, right? But the subconscious or the unconscious only understands that you want that money because you just want out of the situation that you're in. So what usually happens, and this has been my experience too, is something will come along and give you the money later, and it'll do it too, right when you forget about it. But it'll give you the money later, but enough money to get you out of that situation. Not to change your life, but out of that situation. So then you go back to the drawing board. So what did I do wrong? Did I do the ritual wrong? Did I say the words wrong? And so this is where this stuff comes from when we watch like old cartoons and stuff where you see these guys, they're reading a book and they're saying these certain things. And if they say it wrong, it doesn't, the genie doesn't pop out of the bottle or whatever. It's really trying to tell you about the unconscious, the subconscious, and what's behind that. Now, I can't tell you what's behind that. I don't know. I can't tell you that when I had an out-of-body experience that for sure that was the spiritual realm. I don't know. I was still attached to my body. I still could be filtering stuff. All I know is that you can use it, and that once you become aware of it, then it starts to be used against you. Once you're not aware of it, excuse me. But once you become aware of it, it's not used against you anymore. So things like social media, logos, programming, colors of a certain nature, certain smells, certain things that have always programmed you, you start to become aware of what's happening. And then you realize that, okay, wait a minute. I'm in control of a hell of a lot more than I thought I was. Now, I'm not saying there's no New World Order. There's no great grand conspiracy to take over the world or anything. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is once you start tapping into these types of things, then you'll start giving whatever you think that is less power. Think about the word Illuminati, right? Think about that. When you say, oh, it's the Illuminati, which I'm hoping we're over that by now. I don't know. I don't know. I hope we are. But you're giving them your power. You're actually using the symbolism of the word and making a statement with your mouth that there are people that have power over you, that understand things over you because they're illuminated, right? The word itself isn't a bad word. It just means you're illuminated or you become wise to something. But we've programmed it to mean there's something that has power over us. And I want to be real careful about what I say here because I don't want to piss a bunch of people off. But at the same time, I think all of this stuff that's happening to us on an evil level or an evil nature, we bring it upon ourselves. If you go back to what's that text? It was channeled like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth or whatever, where he says that, man in his foolishness brings them from the deep, unaware, like they do it without knowing. All these demons and all these powers that are trying to take control over us, we put that on ourselves, man, in a big way. But don't get me wrong. I'm not in denial about some of the things that are happening, right? I'm not in denial about some of the government programs, about some of the things that they're trying to do for power or the military-industrial complex. But what I'm talking about is your personal life, right? Your health, your well-being, your relationships, your mentality. What's to come of it? If you keep playing victim, you're not going to have any of this stuff that you want. You can manifest this stuff as easy as you program your subconscious to. That's what I'm starting to learn. So it's not easy to do to get past all the blockages. I'm 37, going on 38, and I'm still trying to deprogram all of the religious stuff that was pushed in me. Even though I know that there's so much crazy stuff about it that don't make sense logically, it's still buried in there. And we live in a very polar world, right? So what I'm telling you is the secret sauce to all this lies somewhere between spirituality and science, or let's just call it religion and science. That's the secret door right there. When somebody understands that they can use symbolism to their advantage, not to their disadvantage. Now, what does that make you when you do that? Well, when you start understanding these things and you start doing these things for yourself, that you immediately become a black magician, don't you? You become a scary devil worshiper type person that people don't understand, or the underground person, and you can't go out in public. You definitely can't talk about these things to people, can you? You can't tell them what you're doing. Let's think about something that a lot of people call as scary, right? A circle. Now, a circle itself isn't scary, right? We see it in symbolism. We see it all over the place. Circles everywhere. But it's one of the most powerful symbols, if not, I would say the most powerful symbol, because it represents the Alpha and Omega, the everything, the beginning and the end, all things. So So it's not scary, is it? Think about it. It's not scary. A big old circle. You could just, like tic-tac-toe, no big deal. However, if an individual was to go outside and take some chalk or a stick or anything like that and draw a circle around them, well, that's pretty creepy. That's not normal. Why is he doing that? And then I hear a lot of you talk about portals. You're opening up a portal. And you think about like the cartoon portal, like the whirling type portals. When you go outside and you make a statement, or you do this stuff in your own private space and you draw a circle around yourself, that, if you think about it, that's opening up a portal. But it's not opening up a portal to like an evil dimension. At least I don't think. Right? It's just the ultimate symbol of statement of alpha and omega of everything. So that's why when you read most of these grimoires and stuff, most of these magicians start with it. You're never going to see a politician or a Rothschild or a general or whoever, a bankster, doing this stuff out in public. But I do sometimes wonder if they're not drawing circles in their rooms. That doesn't make them evil. You just need to draw one back. What I'm talking about right now is the actual power to get you out of what you think you're a victim of right now. But you're so scared of it that you think it's evil that you won't touch it. All right, so do this. Start out slow. We tried that on the show, right? Just a simple little sigil, and most of you guys know what a sigil is. A sigil is personal. It doesn't mean you can draw a sigil, and it doesn't have to mean anything to anybody in the world, although symbols that are understood by the mass populace are a lot more powerful than individual symbols. However, that is just between you and the little, I guess you could say, sigil. Nothing scary about it until you make it that way. This is kind of like the tarot card, the Hermit. You know, once you start figuring this stuff out, you're holding your little lamp up and you're walking down a trail looking for more wisdom because you start to understand things, but you can't really talk about it to the world like I'm trying to do, right? Because they think you're weird or crazy that you're even talking about this stuff. But if I was to say if there was like a tarot card that represents where I am in my life right now, that's what it would be. And if you really get into, like when you look at the Rosicrucians, after they go through the elements, they take themselves through the elemental symbols, you know, fire, earth, air, water. They perfect or round out their nature. They do rituals to break all of the old programming that's been pushed into their little head since they were a baby. And that's cool. Like, I think the front part of that is cool, where you do that, where you learn to deprogram yourself. And what I'm talking about is not just what you believe. I'm talking about things like addictions, emotional control, money, all that stuff. And I totally agree with Dion Fortune, because she knows there's a good quote, and I'm not going to quote it because I'll screw it all up. But basically she says, you know, there's no such thing as an occultist that never does or practices anything. All they are is somebody that studies the esoteric. That's it. But it's not an easy road. It's kind of like taking a bunch of lifetimes and deprogramming yourself. So when you start to do this, you'll go through all that stuff and you'll figure it out. Now, you don't have to do like magic to do these types of things, but once you start to understand it, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you can see that it has true power, and you can see that you have your own power to fight back against the evils of the world that are out to kill you and everybody else. And look, there's evil people for sure. And it's funny because it's kind of ironic when I do talk about the really kind of evil people, you know, then we get into this whole philosophic discussion about good and evil when it's obvious that it's here. Now, there's something he brought up, and this is going to get really, really, really weird, but I got to talk to you about this, and it's a thing called theurgy. Now, theurgy is just another word for magic. Aleister Crowley used it a lot. I've never tried it, never practiced it. I'm a little too afraid to do something like that, right? Way too afraid to do it. But earlier, Albert brought up, you know, trance. When you get in a trance state and you become the chicken, right? But what these magicians do, and this works on a good level and a bad level, so I'm making you aware of this. I'm telling you how the occult really works. This isn't Alex Jones just screaming the word occult. This is how it really works. What these guys do is they put themselves in a deep state of hypnotism through trance, symbols, and batteries of rituals. And when they get into that state, then they invoke a certain god, angel, demon, element, planet, or whatever. So you got the elements, you got the planets. Let's just go up the grid here. You've got the signs of the zodiac. You've got the Sephiroth and the Tree of Life. And then you've got entities, angels, demons. Then you've got things like gods and stuff. And so what they do, take, for example, like Thoth. Everybody likes talking about Thoth because he's a real special god in this community, right? Everybody loves Thoth. So what they do is they make sure that they've went through all the elements and they've rounded themselves out because according to them, this stuff is dangerous. And they become the chicken. What do I mean? Like they become the chicken, like Albert was talking about. They invoke the gods into themselves. They invoke someone like Thoth into themselves. And they don't just invoke and say, thank you, Thoth, for coming into my life and all this. No. They become Thoth. And they believe that they're Thoth. They feel like they're Thoth. It's a very strange thing to hear a magician talk about real theurgy. And I've only found one place where you could listen to that, where they really get into it. And that is David Griffin did a Golden Dawn podcast where they were talking to a guy that was from the order in Sweden. And he was trying to explain the invocations of the gods. He was trying to explain theurgy. And when he did, I got a very weird, creepy vibe, right? Because in the beginning of some of these mystery schools, and I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm just saying I had a creepy vibe. Maybe it's my own hang-up. Because in the beginning of these mystery schools, you learn about the programming, right? You learn about the symbolism and astrology and the Hebrew language and the tarot and everything, all the powers behind it, all the stuff. You learn about it all. And then you get to a certain, I guess, level, and now you're ready to do the real work, which it's called the inner work, in the astral realm, so to speak. But really, if someone walked into a room with a camera, they don't see people in the astral realm. What they see is somebody doing a ritual, walking in a circle, saying certain mantras or prayers, doing certain types of things. And then in the very middle, or the climax of the ritual, they do an invocation to a god, like Thoth or like Isis. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong. It could be a beautiful thing if it's understood correctly. But what happens is when we get into these states and we don't know what the hell we're doing and we invoke something like, I don't know, ayahuasca or whatever, like Crowley did. Now, Crowley believes that he was in this state and ayahuasca is going to bring this new aeon, and maybe he is. But that's what you do. That's what opening up a portal. When they talk about it in magic, that's pretty much it. And these cats, they open up portals and they know how to astral travel, and they go to other planets. They go to star systems. I think we were talking about that with Samael Envior. We discussed that. It is a strange thing indeed to see this stuff take place when you see it for the first time in your life. But what I'm about to tell you is different. What I'm about to tell you is actually happening to you and has already happened to you if you're in the normal societal structure like I was, right? If you were brought up in religion, you've already done these things. You've already done rituals that you were told to do. You've already done the cleansing of your sins, just like they do the cleansing of the elements. Same thing, right? Of course, the salvation thing isn't there in magic, is it really? But then you've already done that. And then what happens in religion? Then you do the invocation of whatever God you believe in. and you become one with that person. You hear people say, well, I've got a personal relationship with this person. Let me ask you a question, and I know this might offend some of you, but do you really know who you're talking to? Are you certain? That's what trips me up, right? Because those guys in the church, they'll tell somebody else that, you know, if they felt love from another being, like Thoth or fairies or cats or whatever a person wants to believe in, they say, you know, I felt love, I felt this energy, it's a vibe I can't explain. They'll say, well, Satan comes in all forms, right? He's a trickster, he'll get you. Oh, then how do you know that the love you're feeling is any different? How do you know you're not talking to Satan? And that's where it gets confusing. But I think religion spawned out of all this. And there's a pretty good movie, you can go check it out. It's called Agora, and it shows where back in the day when the Library of Alexandria was up, that where we studied these types of things. We studied the planets and the movements of the planets, and we studied consciousness. We think we're doing it now because we're evolved. We used to do these things, but religion took over. The Council of Nicaea came in and took over. We've all been programmed ever since then. I can't go to a damn hotel room and take a nap without somebody putting their programming into the desk. And and look, it's not, I don't think they're evil because they do it. I just don't think we truly understand these things. And then you got all kinds of different religions. And I don't want to put you guys in a trance with this stuff, but don't be afraid to look into it. There's a book that I would get if you really want to look into this stuff and you really want to understand it. There is a book called Kabbalah, Magic, and the Great Work of Self-Transformation by Liam Thomas Christopher. That's Liam Christopher Thomas? No, it's Liam Thomas Christopher. And you don't have to do the stuff that's in the book, but it's basically like a beginning book to esoteric Western magic, right? It's a beginner's guide. It's like front to back. Has a whole system in there, front to back. But in the beginning of the book, he explains where all the stuff comes from and why it happened. And then there's references in the book. And you got to also remember when you're reading books, and I'm not trying to complicate things, but ideas get passed down through books without ever being questioned. People will take an idea and put it in their book, and so on ad infinitum, right? So it never gets questioned. So make sure that you question all this stuff too. Now I'm going to tell you about a crazy dream I had, and it's kind of a scary dream I had the other night, but I think I kind of understand it. I think I understand what Albert was talking about, becoming the chicken, so to speak. It's kind of funny that he said it that way. But in that dream, it's kind of like, you've had a dream that was so bad that after it was over, you were so glad you woke up from. And you forget the fact that you're so happy that you woke up from that dream, right? You're so happy that it's over, that it wasn't real, that really didn't happen. And it could be a dream about somebody that you loved that died, or something you were going through that's just god awful. But you're just happy it's over and you go back on with your life. But what you don't stop to realize and what you don't stop to think about is exactly what he was saying. Why is it that you feel like it was real? Why did you forget about this life when you were there? You totally forgot about it. And I'm already over here. We're deep into the late night. Don't forget we're here at 9 p.m. to midnight every single night, live on the Fringe FM. After this broadcast, if you're listening live, Ryan Gable from the Secret Teachings comes up. I'm trying to explain, it's coming up after this, but I'm trying to explain this in a very layman's terms, because the occult and symbolism and magic and all this stuff, it gets very complicated and there's a lot to it. But there's a simpler way to look at it, actually. It's not that hard. It doesn't need to be as complicated, is what I mean. But yeah, we got to take a break. I'm just rambling now. We'll be right back.
was different 60 years ago. It was minimally processed, free of pesticides. It was nourishing and healthful for your body. Today, GMOs, pesticides, herbicides, and heavy processing have depleted the nutrition of our food supply, which takes a toll on our health and energy. It's harder than ever to get the right nutrition. That's what Life Change Tea is meant to counteract. Our specially blended, powerful herbal formulas can give you more energy without caffeine. It's a mild cleanse, a mild daily detox. A good detox can help revive and bring back the energy of your youth. GetTheTea.com is the website. It'll cleanse you from the inside out with this herbal proprietary formula. Go to GetTheTea.com. There's no fillers, no GMOs. It's organic. Not available in stores. You must go to their website, GetTheTea.com. And their supplements are a great way to maintain your health. Read the testimonials on the website. Go to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
Storm's coming.
If this were a dictatorship, it'd be a heck of a lot easier. Just so long as I'm the dictator.
We have infiltrated every level of its infrastructure.
Who did you leave him with? Your people?
Do you actually predict dictatorship and economic disaster for the United States?
You see, in their last moments, people show you who they really are.
The truth is, there is something terribly wrong with this country.
You'll have to choose.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You are listening to The Fringe FM. Have you heard? She's coming.
The Fringe FM isn't just a radio station. We also provide services for all your audio production needs. If you are interested in live radio or pre-recorded podcasts, we're here to help. We even do audio enhancements and voiceovers if needed. If you want to do a podcast or live radio show and even want the option to syndicate on terrestrial radio, from simple audio file enhancement to live production and call screening, we have you covered. We have worked with some of the best professionals in the business in order to provide coaching instruction for content creation, show structure, and more. Contact The Fringe Digital Media for more at info@thefringe.fm. That's info@thefringe.fm. Or call 501-777-5631 for a consultation.
Hey, is that a new music app?
Yeah, check it out. Surfer Music Discovery. It links to thousands of online stations, but the twist is you see the song names and artists that are now playing live.
That's different. No guessing. Looks like a waterfall of music.
So many formats. Rock, oldies, country, R&B, jazz, and a whole lot more.
How's that spelled?
Surfer. S-U-R-F-R.
Is it expensive?
It's free. No need to sign up or sign in.
Get the Surfer Music app free from Google Play or the App Store.
Do you want to know the truth? Are UFOs real? Are aliens visiting Earth? Are governments around the world hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO Seekers, official partner of The Fringe FM, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Join us as we investigate locations like Area 51 by subscribing on YouTube at youtube.com/UFO Seekers.
Start your evenings with The Fringe FM long before those other shows get started. Exclusively live on The Fringe FM, hear the Quantum Hologram Matrix with the Reverend John Polk, Tuesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. And our newest show, Sci-Spy Radio with Suzanne Ross, Wednesdays at 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern. Then stay up, because we're burning the midnight oil well into the morning hour. The truth is out there, and so are we. Lock it in, The Fringe FM.
Ahoy there, Gigi here from Shift Happens. Do you like to boogie down to topics such as ufology, the occult, and the mysteries behind our reality? Well, I invite you to join us every Friday night at 7 p.m. Pacific, that's 10 p.m. Eastern, as we like to punch that curiosity button and tickle that fancy. We tickle that fancy, but yeah, I don't know if that's the right analogy, but there's certainly a lot of tickling going on over here at Shift Happens.
Yeah, so as we get deeper into the night here on the Fringe FM, oh, that was wild. We just had a nasty power surge. We talk about deeper things. And I think it's cool that some of you actually, I get a lot of messages afterwards, right? And by the way, if you're just tuning in, I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void. Our website's lightingthevoid.com. But I get a lot of messages from people about the podcast, and we do both sides of things here at the Fringe FM. We love the broadcast and the radio side of it, but we also do the podcasting side of it too, because I get a lot of messages from people that listen to the show afterwards, and most of them have questions about these types of things. And every time I discuss this, and I'm not saying it's okay, I love getting your messages, but every time I discuss this, I get the same question. I get the same question about protection and psychic protection, things like that. And I've given plenty of references for that. You want to know that if you really want to know the books I read, that's the stuff I read about. If I open a book, 9 times out of 10, it's nonfiction. And I read about these things. Like I brought up earlier, Liam Thomas Christopher's book or Dion Fortune's books, things like that. But Dion Fortune did a book called Psychic Self-Protection, or Psychic Self-Protection, right? That's it. I probably screwed the name up. I can't think straight right now. But I've brought it up so many times. I actually gave it away to the newsletter to understand that if once you really get into looking into these things, you might think that you're cursed or you have some type of planet, some type of cabal trying to do something to you. But it could just be, a bad like a planetary alignment, right? You could be in a different type of energy situation where the planets are lined up on you wrong. I know that sounds wild, but it's a fact. This whole life and everything about it's run on energy. And if you think those things are just spinning around up there around the sun by happenstance, well, that's crazy. That's illogical to think about. There's nothing in nature in this universe that's not doing something for a reason. We just don't understand space yet. But what the occultists did, what magicians did, and what ancient astrologers did, like real astrology, right? What they did was they would chart these things, and based on the scientific method, which is kind of ironic because we usually don't put these things together, but that's what they used. They started realizing, hey, certain things happen when these alignments happen, and they started putting it together. I often wonder what was actually in that library. I bet there was some fantastic stuff in that library that got taken down. Maybe a book that actually told us about our own power, about what we could really do. And like Ramblin' Randy called in the other night and was talking about, I believe if we believed it, we could actually grow another arm, which sounds crazy, but I understood what he was talking about. So let's get back into this, right? For some strange reason, you could use the moon. The moon is not evil. Well, it shouldn't be anyways, but I saw a video online today about how the moon is an interplanetary satellite run by space aliens. I don't know where, look, I understand that there's a mystery to it, but there's no proof that it's run by aliens. But anyways, what I do know is that when you use the moon to charge certain things, and I'm probably going to get some judgments here, but if it works, man, it works, man. Look, if I could tell you about something that would really enhance your life, not in a way that you want physically and mentally and or materially, like we all want more money, we all want the perfect boyfriend or girlfriend, but I'm talking about what your soul really wants. If I could tell you a way to get that, would you do it? I'm not asking you to walk to the doors of the devil and open the door, but I just want you to try some of the stuff so you'll see that it actually works. So you won't be so afraid of it. That's the whole problem. They've got you scared to touch anything outside of your dogmas, beliefs, or psychological hang-ups. So things like talismans, right? What does that mean? Well, a talisman is something, just think of the word T, like it brings things towards you. So if you're trying to bring something in your life, you can make a talisman about it. You can use the symbols of the unconscious, the arcana, the planets, whatever you want to use a symbol of that's really powerful. Usually the most powerful things are, planetary things or astrological things, astrological symbols, because we all understand. If we all understand them, that's where the power goes into. You ever haven't figured that out yet, have you? You're still a prisoner of the cabal. But anyways, there's something very cool about the moon, that you can use the moon's, and it has its own clock. It's got its own astrological clock. It's on a whole nother thing. It's got its own planetary hours. That's something we can get into later on a different show. But there's several books, like if you take Dion Fortune, which is one of my favorite authors, Moon Magic, right? Now, 5-6 years ago, if you caught me saying this, I would probably say that's not me. But it is now. You can use things like the moon to charge these talismans or these symbols energetically. Now, I don't know why it works, right? I have no idea. I can't explain the fundamental science and evidence and all that stuff you guys want on peer-reviewed papers, why it works. All I know is that it works. And for all you skeptic scientists out there that don't believe in nothing, try this stuff for yourself. It probably will take a lot longer to work for you because you don't believe in nothing, which is just as bad if you ask me. But it works. And the moon is one of the things that I think you should try if you're going to try something, because it's harmless, right? And the whole, waning and waxing of the moon. And one phase it's waning and the other it's waxing, so you can pull things towards you and you can push things away. But there's a section of what's called like a void of course moon when you're not supposed to do anything. I can't explain that. All I know is that it works. And that's all I'm trying to tell you, is if that works, what does that mean? Maybe I'm the only one that can look deep into this stuff. I'm not the only one, but you feel that way after a while. What does that imply? And could I use Mars to my advantage, or could I look at a certain planetary alignment or whatever and just kind of duck and get past this stuff? I told myself a long time ago I would never talk about this because of what people would think and how people would judge me and stuff. I would never talk about these things. I would always keep it secret to myself, right? But I think that's the problem. I think that's why we are in the state that we're in. Wouldn't it make sense? Look, if I'm right about this, wouldn't it make sense how we've perpetuated the way the planet is now, how we don't learn from our experience, and we don't understand the deep hidden metaphors and symbolisms behind everything. We don't understand our own power. And it's even in your religions, like God is the ultimate logos. The word is with God and the word is God. You don't even know what that means. A lot of people don't even know what that means. They just think, well, that's the text on the Bible pages. That's the word. He's God. Hallelujah. Praise Jesus. Yeah. You don't even take time to look into what the text is. Like, it's really called the Logos. And what is the Logos? That's why we had Robert Bonomo on the show. He does, the 22 or the 21 faces of God, the arcana of the tarot, so you can understand that life is a living metaphor. Yes, the word is really alive, and there are true things in that Bible. True, very true fundamental things. And all I'm telling you is you can tap into that program. I think when they made religion, they whoever made it, I think they originally designed it because maybe we were in a state of mind at that time that we just, we couldn't understand these types of things. I mean, because we were mostly just, trying to eat. We thought when the sun went down, we were going to die, So how could you be, and there's a whole different debate about how it got here, whether it was from an alien or something, but how could you understand these fundamental things? How could you tell somebody that thinks like, hey, the sun's going down, we're going to die, and after a while they figure out that's not true, just past that a little ways, and try to teach those type of people that you can use, like, look, here's this planet, here's the symbol, but if you guys want to, you can create a different symbol for it if you'd like. And as long as you all agree on it, then it becomes a living metaphor. It becomes powerful. But you can't say that because they're all going to look at you and scratch their head and wonder, when's dinner? What am I going to eat next? So you tell them a nursery rhyme or a parable. And somewhere along the way, they got screwed up. It got really messed up. And we started killing each other. I think there was at some time, and some people have called it Atlantis or whatever, but I really do think at one point in time in history, there was just this one fundamental teaching. And when it all got broke up, if there was anything in the world that was evil, it was the birth of all these different religions. Or maybe that's not the evil part. Maybe the evil part is saying, hey, I have this story about Brahma, and hey, I've got this story about Jehovah. But both of these stories are telling the same thing. That's not what you're being told. If you sit in a church, they're telling you these guys are worshiping statues. They're not worshiping statues. Of course, it does look that way, doesn't it? And this goes back to me telling, it's like the same fundamental. How can you really know something until you've passed a time with it? How can you really know what Buddhism is like until you've actually sat in a temple and meditated and really studied with these people? How can you know? How can you judge the Jews until you've sat down with a rabbi and went through all that? I know some people that have had some crazy spiritual, life-changing experiences with things like Judaism and the Kabbalah. Same thing with Christianity. I'm not judging it. What I'm judging is just the fact that we don't get past that. And even in the Hebrew, well, I don't want to say the Hebrew, but the New Testament, there's a book called Hebrews where they talk about, and you'll never hear this in church, where they talk about evolving past Christianity. Let us move on from this, right? And I don't want to get like preaching at you and tell you, get your hymnals out and I'll show you where it's at. No, I don't want to do all that. But it's in there. They talked about moving past Christianity, evolving into things, right? And that's what we should do. Once we start learning our own power as a community, then we can take everything back. Robert Monroe in his third book talked about his very wild experiences. And there's nobody more on this planet that I would have loved to have talked to than him. All the way from his very first out-of-body experience to his third book, where he started traveling and meeting beings that lived on planets. And I know this is wild, and I'd like to believe it's real, but they lived on planets where they controlled everything. And I'm not talking about weather control. I'm not talking about chemtrails. I'm talking about these people could leave their body at will. They could control nature just through their own thoughts and powers and what their own beliefs were. Of course, they didn't wear clothes either, but they controlled everything because they understood this. And we think we're evolved because we got all this technology. In the universe, in fact, we could be one of the most primitive races and idiotic races on the planet or in the universe that's destroying ourselves because we don't understand our own power. Because greed has taken over. That's the dark cabal, if you ask me. Control and money. Like if you go on a I don't want to say TalkStream Live because I love TalkStream Live, but if you look on the radio right now, radio's, God, I love it. It's just voice. It's all theater of the mind. But if you go look at it now, it ain't what it used to be. We used to have shows about all kinds of things. We used to use our imagination. We used to have what was like The Shadow and Dragnet, and you had Orson Welles, you had the family, they gather around the radio. They wouldn't care about all this stuff. And yeah, they were doing politics and stuff back then too, but it ain't like it is now. Every stinking show is about politics. Left or right. And yeah, it's stupid, right? It's stupid. But the most important thing is, it's like we we don't understand we're feeding these things. Like, we are the ones that are responsible for our own demise in this way. Now, here's the kicker. Like, I don't want to give you this deal where you think that I think we're miniature gods or something. I don't know that. I've had experiences with demonic things. I've had experiences with the angelic things. I know that there are beings out there that have a little bit more power than whatever state we're in right now. And I drifted so far away from talismans, I got on a rant. But just remember that the fundamental behind all this. So talismans means bringing things towards you. Talisman, towards, right? Learn how to use these types of things. I don't care if you use gems, crystals, jewels, whatever you want to use. But just understand, like, when you go around and bragging about it and dressing up and doing all this stuff and talking about the ancient god from whatever's controlling your amulet your talisman, then people are going to look at you funny. But maybe you should just instead go around and explain how these things work to people and ask them to try it before you start telling them that, you're a super soldier from this planet that's ruled by Thoth, that's ruled by some type of intergalactic whatever. You're forgetting about that people, your message isn't getting out. I hate to tell you. You've been doing this stuff for years. It's not growing. It's not changing. It's not getting out. The bigger majority of people are still worried about politics. Your message isn't getting out. That's because you approached them with the wildest shit on the planet. Sorry, but you don't. You got to break things down for them. If you teach them, like the guy that we had on the show tonight, he's teaching a fundamental about the occult, about the alternative community or whatever. Something that people can understand, so they will look into it, so that they can get their power back. I know you want to be special and different and everything. I get it. You are special and different. I told you this already. There's nobody on the planet like you. Nobody. Your DNA, the planets were lined up all in a certain way. That's why you don't relate to people. You'll never fully relate to anybody because there's nobody like you. But when you flaunt it and you push it on people and you talk about how, you're the resurrected, what is it called? Resurrected. What did I have some person tell me? Oh, they were the resurrected Hermes, or, if you tell me that, you and I can have a conversation, right? We can have a conversation. You go out in the public and tell them that and stuff and act that way, then you should fundamentally know what's going to happen. You should know it. And that goes the same with crystals and all that stuff. Jason Quitt's the only person I've ever had on the show that didn't just say, oh, I love crystals. They're so cool. They're so energetic, and they're so this and they're so that. Love light, unicorns, and puppies. No, he came on here and explained how it worked. And you got to realize that not everybody, and I'm talking to the people in the New Age community or whatever you want to call yourselves. I guess I'm involved with it too. I'm a part of everything, though. Is that society will not accept your message until you get on their level. It's like children. You can scream at them all day long. Tell them, don't do that. Do this instead. Don't look at this. Don't do that. Sit down over here. They're going to buck you until you get on their level. You're going to have to learn how to communicate with them. I had to learn that with my son. Couldn't get him to listen to nothing until we actually sat down and I started talking about the things he cared about. That's how you communicate with people. There's nothing wrong with having an agenda because everybody's got one. I do, you do, everybody's got an agenda. There's nothing wrong with having it. But you sure as hell ain't going to get your message across until you get on somebody's level first. And I went on a rant. All right, so the next thing is something to understand is what's called amulets, right? So think about the word amulet means to protection, to push something away from you, away. And it's the same factors. You can use certain things, and this works in religion. It works in everything, really. As long as you believe it enough and it's got enough power behind it. When I say power, We're talking about a symbol that a lot of people put time and effort into throughout history. It's got enough power into it. You can use these type of things to push certain things away from you. No, I don't want to get into the whole cross and Christian deal about the cross or any of that stuff, but you can use that stuff, right? I've gone and done it now, haven't I? I've went on a tangent. But either way, you look into that, you try it out, it's harmless, right? There's no harm in it. And I would challenge you, like, if you've always had, you always wore crosses, that's great. I know that stuff works. I know it does. I wear a cross. Got one around my neck right now. But all the other things aren't bad. You're only understanding one part of yourself there. And I promise you I was going to tell you about this dream. But yeah, when you really start getting into this stuff, then you can actually see, okay. Now, if there is a system of control, then they're probably very archonic, right? Like what we were talking about with Gnostic Radio, the guy that was on here. I'm starting to forget names. That they understand things on a very, very, very deep level, right? Like a deeper level than you and I will ever figure out. And there's no way you're going to go to be able to, I'm not even going to get into that because there's no way I'm going to be able to talk to you about that. I don't think I have a way to explain it. But when you meet a being for the first time that you know is more powerful than you, it's a freaky thing. It's a scary thing. And maybe I will talk about that one day. But right now, I don't think I'm ready to talk about it. And I don't think that I don't think you're ready to accept it. And that's okay, because I wasn't either. 4 minutes over the break again. All right. We'll be right back. We only got a few minutes left of Lighting the Void. Listen, tomorrow night, J.D. Lewis is going to premiere on the Fringe FM. I want all of you there in the chat rooms, or room. We'll be at the Fringe FM chat. Everybody get behind this thing. Things are changing. All, the new podcast, the new shows, all that stuff. We'll be right back.
Hey, Fringe FM listeners, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or no Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the Fringe FM by calling 701-719-3971. No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 701-719-3971. That's 701-719-3971. Listen to the Fringe FM on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Folks, this is very important information. What's to be said about CBD? AncientLifeOil.com. Our CBD is made from hemp and has 0.003 THC, which means this wonderful product won't get you high, no matter what amount you take. What does CBD do for the body? My hands are tied. But you can Google CBD benefits and be astounded. When you're finished reading, you'll want to log on to AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com and purchase. Life is good when you feel good. People are tired of pain. People are asking for non-GMO organic products to help them with you fill in the blank. Legal in 49 states, and again, our CBD is made from hemp. Ancient Life Oil is about helping people one by one by one. If you wonder how good the product is, the CEO takes it every day without miss. AncientLifeOil.com. That's AncientLifeOil.com. Have a great day.
Occult Arcana is a balanced and objective guide to those subjects considered a part of the nature of light and darkness. Addressed in this text is a compilation of material that will provide new perspectives and awaken latent abilities that we all possess. The content herein shall provide magical sustenance for adept and novice alike, and will help strengthen the cornerstone of mystic understanding and alchemical transmutation. If you are interested in this modern grimoire, you can find detailed information and ways to order by visiting www.thesecretteachings.info. Although esoteric and occult studies remain vast, they are rooted within a universal philosophy that is difficult, if not impossible by finite terms, to explain in words. Language places restriction and erects barriers to understandings. By this it is to be understood that there are some things man should consider far too sacred to profane with definition. For these concepts and the manner by which we live our lives, we shall take a note from the Greek philosopher Pythagoras. Quote, "Silence is better than unmeaning words." End quote. To get your autographed copy of Occult Arcana today, simply visit www.thesecretteachings.info or email The Secret Teachings at
Lighting the Void is proud to announce Mind and Magic's Protection and Defense Course for protection from magical and psychic attacks. This is not a joke. Magic practitioners are on the rise, and with that comes attacks from baneful or black magicians that try to harm or hurt others for their own selfish reasons. If you are not a believer in psychic attacks, then this isn't for you. If you are, and you want the power to defend yourself and your family and home, then I highly suggest you grab Frater Xavier's Protection and Defense Course. In this course, you will learn how to tell if you are under attack from a natural source or if an individual is attacking you. The 4 forms of curses and attacks. How to remove self-imposed curses. The correct way to cleanse your home from negativity or malevolent entities. How to make your own holy water. What you should always keep near or under your bed. Herbs that banish negativity and promote purity. The most powerful banishing rituals on the planet. And for those that seem to want to harm you the most, how to put your enemies in a hell pit of their own making. You can also learn protection against shadow people and other entities. Or are you just in a bad planetary alignment? Even how to get rid of an enemy using a tic-tac box. It does not matter what your faith or belief is, this will work. Click the banner on the website at lightingthevoid.com or go to lightingthevoid.com/Xavier.
You're listening to Lighting the Void Radio.
Hi, this is Aaron Hunter, host of Real Paranormal Activity, the podcast where we tell real paranormal experiences of people from around the world. And we also conduct interviews with authors, investigators, psychics, and mediums. Real people, real stories, real fear. Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern on The Fringe FM. See you then.
You're listening to KTLK, The Fringe FM.
So, have you heard of heavy metals? I'm not talking about the heavy metals in the junkyard. I'm talking about the heavy metals that build up in your body. Heavy metals in your body can make you feel sluggish, fatigued, and just plain off. Why not try Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com? Cleansing your body and making you feel great. No, not cleansing the outside of your body, but cleansing the inside of your body of intruders that sneak their way into you and set up an intruder camp. Life Change Tea helps remove unwanted intruder camps. Brew it, steep it, and drink in the results. Tastes great, so you can create a new health habit. Our tea loves to help people. It just needs the chance. So order yours today by logging on to GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. Our Life Change Super Strength Tea is waiting. This could be a beautiful relationship. Take charge of your health. Order at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com.
And get the Super Strength Tea. If you're like me, get that stuff out of you, the Super Strength Tea, the month supply at GetTheTea.com. There's some good stuff. I'm Joe Roop. This is Lighting the Void, live on the Fringe FM. We only got just a little bit left in the program, then the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gables coming up. For all of you late nighters, I love you guys. You guys are my favorite people on the planet. I can't relate to anybody in the world except for those of you that just can't sleep. You insomniacs, I really adore you. Thanks for listening. And that is Bundy, the mystery man. I don't even know that guy's real name. The guitarist, I don't know who he is. Don't know his real name. All I know is his name is Bundy. So to get back on topic, we were talking about amulets, talismans, and all that stuff. I dropped a pretty good, I think, introductory to it, like in the Discord chat, and it's Frederick Xavier's Mind in Magic. Most of you are familiar with it, but I'm not trying to go on a self-righteous, all-knowing rant, because here's the thing: once you get into this, you're going to start realizing how much you don't know, but then you'll start realizing that you can take some of your power back. All of my life, and I know that some of you can relate to this, all of my life I've been around what I call Eeyore syndrome. It is a curse in my family. And for those of you that don't know who Eeyore is the character off Winnie the Pooh, right? The one guy that is just a bummer. So imagine your friends, your family, the people that you've been around your whole life, that's all they say. I don't know. This is a slave planet. We'll never be rich anyways. The poor never get anywhere. Nice guys finish last. Think about it, right? Think about being when you're a baby, you come out kicking, screaming, laughing, bright, blue-eyed, angelic looking almost. And you get ruined in a matter of years if you get born into the wrong situation or family, and a lot of you have. I've talked to a lot of you, I know. And then again, I've talked to other people that just inspire me, that you can tell that their programming is totally different. So what are we talking about? We're talking about programming. That's all this is. That's all magic and the occult, the stuff that you're afraid of. That's all it is. Except what it is you actually tapping into the system and learning what it means. The only thing, and here's the only thing that tells you to stay away from it is religion. Isn't that funny? And we don't really know who wrote those books. Like, what was it, like Leviticus and Deuteronomy and all that stuff? Oh, God, man, I'm sorry that I know all this stuff about the Bible. Look, I'm not really sorry, actually. The Bible's a beautiful text. It's a magical text. There's a lot of cool things once you see the symbolism behind it, right? But when I was young, my dad used to punish me. This is how he would punish me. And it's a form of child abuse. You're going to laugh at this, but it is a form of child abuse. At least I think it is. Is he would make me go in my room, shut the door, break out my King James Version Bible, and I would have to listen to the Bible on tape as I read along for hours and hours on end with Alexander Scorby, which if anybody had a voice for radio or storytelling, it was him. He was the one. But that stuff, what was my father trying to do? He wasn't doing it because he was evil. He was doing it because he loved me and he was worried about me and he wanted me to be a good person. So deep down in his heart and soul, he knew all I got to do is lock the kid in there and program his brain. And on top of that, since he hates it so much because it's against our inner nature to do those type of things anyways, I'll only do it to him when he gets in trouble. And since he gets in trouble a lot, he's going to be reading the Bible a lot. And so I became very programmed when I was younger. Right? I hated going to church. Hated it. Because it didn't make sense. And I think most of us that are listening right now, we don't even have to have this discussion, do we? We're past this part. We understand everything, the cause and effect of all of it. But what I'm asking you to do is stop believing in all of the evils that you think are evil until you know for a fact. Until you experience it, then you know. Right? You don't know that you're being run by a dark cabal. I'm sorry, you don't know that. You have no way of knowing. You have no experience. Your experience tells you that you're a slave. But it doesn't define you. It doesn't define a cabal. It just defines your terrible existence that you hate so much. That's sad, isn't it? That's a sad state of affairs, if you ask me. That all these powers and stars, and we're talking about big-time energy here, fusion that happens on a mass level. They're doing everything in their power to manifest a solar system. It does everything in its power to perfection to manifest a planet. Everything about life it comes from perfection of what's going on in the universe right now. This thing spawned a place where you can actually experience concepts in a physical way. You can experience love, pain, sex, food, pleasure, beautiful nature, emotions. You really aren't these things, I don't believe. I think you come from something much bigger than that. But you get to experience all this stuff, right? And when you get here, you're a happy, curious baby, for the most of us are, if everything works out right. I'm talking about first cause all the way into the last effect here. And then you grow up and you're a kid, you got big dreams, you got a big future. You don't know what's going to happen. The days, they run so long because, like our guest was talking about, you could put yourself in a state of hypnotic trance by looking out a window or doing what I did, like sharpening a stick on the concrete, making a spear out of it. I used to take sticks and just rub them on the road out in front of my house, until they made a perfect spear so I could be an Indian or whatever. And I always had dreams. And when you don't know what's going to happen in the future, that's exciting, right? You don't know. You don't know who you're going to date. You don't know who your girlfriend's going to be or this or that. You don't know. You just see all these adults doing this stuff and you don't know what your life's going to be like. And that's exciting, right? And then you grow up and then you get your first girlfriend or boyfriend, then you get your first job or you chase your first dream. You do all this stuff and it doesn't manifest the way that you pictured it. And then that happens a few more times. So instead of like you being the child again, instead of you saying, okay, I lost this relationship, I wonder who my next relationship's going to be. I wonder what that experience is going to be like. Or I wonder what, I lost my job, I got fired, blah, blah, blah. I wonder what my next adventure job is going to be like. Instead of going through life and just going with the experience, you play the role of the victim. Oh, all that stuff I thought was wrong. This is hell. Boo-hoo. Look, I'm not trying to downplay heartache. I'm not. Heartache hurts, but it's supposed to. Losing your job sucks. It's supposed to. But you got to experience that stuff. Relativity has to happen for life to happen. Life is here for experience. Experience, I think, is the ultimate thing. And then once we really start coming into our power, like if you read the third book of Robert Monroe, I think that's when certain civilizations and certain planets, maybe they started coming into their own power and realization. What I'm talking about here is like if we wanted to use this to our advantage, we could. We could live longer lives. We could have a better, cleaner planet. We could have the animals we wanted to have, the habitats we wanted to have. That's what this place was meant for. And yes, that's in the Bible too, I know. But it's in a lot of different things. It's a fundamental teaching of the universe. But slowly and surely, we took the things that it was given to us and turned it against ourselves. I think we probably started like, the movie The Space Odyssey. That's exactly just what happened. One of us got greedy and figured out we could hurt the other one so we could get what we want. And then it just, perpetuated. But I believe just like you as an individual, like you're going through your own mystery and your own experiences and your own stuff that you have no idea what's going on, your own pain. I also believe as a civilization, we're going through these things. And what I'm saying right now, frankly, scares the hell out of me. I told you, like, that earthquake we had was pretty close to us, you know. There's earthquakes popping up all over the place. Is it cyclical? Is it nature? Is it scientific, right? And sure it is. You guys in science, you do realize you're only explaining the very least of things, right? What you can understand about what's going on. But what I see is a planet of beings that's programming and calling in our own demise. I think that's what that Tool song was about, Learn to Swim. When he's like, just wash it all away. Because he could see, the lead singer of that, which I love that guy, by the way, but he could see what we were doing. He could see that that's what we were doing anyways. So let's just start over. Some deep stuff in that song. Now, as soon as this broadcast goes off the air, you're probably going to hear other shows that talk about different things. I like to be different, but not because just being different, like this is who I am. These are the things that I think about. And I want to tell you about tomorrow night. It's going to be a hoot, because at 5 p.m. Pacific, a hoot. That's a Southern term. It's going to be a hoot, because at 5 p.m. Pacific, Suzanne Ross is going to do a show. That's when we kick things off. At 7 p.m. Pacific, you're going to hear a show like you've never heard before. You don't hear shows like this on mainly all the talk radio shows. You don't hear somebody tell you like it is from this point of view, tell it like it is from a different point of view that makes sense. I mean, look how popular right-wing radio is. Stuff like that, right? I'm jealous of radio hosts like that because they're in the know. They know these types of things, but this is different. I think J.D. Lewis is an actual planetary, warrior. I think she's been put here on purpose to shake shit up. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And you better be there. You're going to miss out if you're not. Come hang out with us wherever you're at, the chats, whatever. And then I'll be on afterwards. And tomorrow night, we're going to talk to one of our listeners who is also into the paranormal, is Barbara Charlton. And she helps people with paranormal trauma. People that have had crazy experiences in their life that, for one, they can't share with people because nobody believes them, but they also got trauma from it. That's a huge subject because that really happens. But if you listen to this show, Lighting the Void, I'm trying to figure out how we get all this stuff back that we lost from our own BS a lot of the times. I'm sure you can tell by now. And it's fun to do shows about the Freemasons, the Illuminati, and all this other stuff, and talk about who's in control and how they're controlling us. It's almost like watching a good horror flick sometimes. I get it. I get why you get emotionally attached to it. But wouldn't you rather have all of those feelings in your real life, like so you could get that stuff back magically, like use this stuff for your real situations? The most frustrating thing about this is the void, actually, because the deeper you go in, the bigger questions you got, and you can never get some solid answers. The only thing about it is I'm a little strange. I like that. I like the fact that you don't get answers. We do got to roll out of here, though. I want to thank Patrick Pacho. The guys really, really, really helped me. Don as well has really helped me. And Patrick has, Patrick is, got it. When I was trying to book guests, when I reached out for like a volunteer to help with the show, like a producer, I was almost like a month behind. I was booking guests day by day. And this guy is, not only does he book guests, he's reaching out to people. He talks to them. He sends me the info. He makes sure that, that I'm on top of it. And then Don will, send me some interesting questions and facts. It's almost like I've got a real producer, and he is, man. And if you're listening, brother, you really don't know how much I appreciate you, man. You really don't. So, yeah, we'll be back tomorrow night. The Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable's coming up. Please do not rebroadcast this show without written permission. if you put it on your apps or whatever apps you got out there, like Truth Seeker or whatever apps that you guys call it that you put it on, make sure that you let me know about it so I can say, yes, it's okay before you start taking the content, and all will be good. And the show was produced by me, Joe Roop, co-producer Patrick Pacho, and El Pacho, and Don. Music was by Chronox, Bundy, Kevin MacLeod, Space Station, and the Public Domain. We'll see you guys tomorrow night. Good night.
I'm not tired!
Don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. It don't mean a thing, all you gotta do is swing. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm every little thing you've got. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing.
We've heard your feedback loud and clear. You called it out, and now we're answering. All new live programming, 5 nights a week. Always remember, the Fringe FM is for you, the listener, and we appreciate your feedback. Keep the feedback coming. You can email us at talkback@thefringe.fm, call the station at 501-777-5631, or send us a message on Facebook at The Fringe FM.